The school board meeting will begin in 1 minute. Please take your seats. Again, the school board meeting will begin in 1 minute.
Good evening. The March 28th, 2023 meeting of the Marion County School Board is now called to order. Mirroring and modeling the way our students begin each day, I ask that we observe a moment of silence at this time, and please keep in mind at this time those in Nashville that were impacted recently by the tragedy there, as well as others in our community who are hurting. If you'll please observe a moment of silence with us at this time. Thank you. At this time, I'd also like to ask Reverend Cummings if you would read our board commitment statement, please.
Thank you, Chair. We are the Marion County School District Leadership Team. When we come together to work, we are efficient, effective, and productive. Our three most important characteristics are dedicated, transparent, and individually responsible. To work well together, we must demonstrate respect, confront reality, be accountable. We will always put students first, and we will leave a legacy of success.
Thank you, Reverend Cummings. I would now like to ask members in the audience to please silence their electronic devices or put them on vibrate to avoid disturbing others. Later in the meeting, up to 30 minutes will be provided for individuals to address the board on matters concerning the operation of the Marion County school system or the school board only. Presentations to the board are limited to 5 minutes, but also may be reduced down to 3 minutes based on the number of speakers, and are televised. If you wish to address the board regarding a regular agenda item or matters on which the board customarily takes action, you must first complete a peach-colored form located in the lobby. If you wish to address the board regarding a public hearing or a student discipline matter, please complete a lime green colored form. These forms must be completed fully and received by the board clerk no later than 5:40 p.m. The procedures applicable for each are on a separate sheet. Board clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Allison Campbell, District 1.
Here.
Mrs. Lori Conrad, District 2.
Here.
Mr. Eric Cummings, District 3.
Here.
Mrs. Nancy Thrower, District 4.
Here.
Dr. Sarah James, District 5.
Here.
Dr. Diane Gullett, Superintendent.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Powers, School Board Attorney.
Thank you. Dr. Gullett, good evening. Will you please introduce a member of your team who will be introducing those who are giving tonight's inspiration and pledge?
Good evening, Madam Chair. It will be my pleasure. Good evening, members of the board as well. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Ms. Jo Crowder, who is well known in our community for being an outstanding supporter and coordinator of the arts, which is so important in our students' education. And she is going to introduce some very special guests to celebrate tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. Good evening, Board Chairperson, Mrs. Campbell, Vice Chair, Mrs. Thrower, Board members, Dr. James, Mrs. Conrad, and Reverend Cummings, Superintendent, Dr. Gullett, Mr. Powers, and Ms. Martinez-Lopez, and welcome to all of our guests this evening. We have a very special inspiration and pledge this evening. We're celebrating artwork of our fifth graders. And we have been doing a program in conjunction with Marion County Tax Collector called Kids Tag Art. Since 2012, the Tax Collector's Office has partnered with our schools and the elementary art teachers to offer this unique program. The Kids Tag Art program inspires our students' creative abilities by allowing them to design their own license plate, and it is a real license plate that you can put on the front of your car. Each participating school's art program earns 100% of sale profits through a fundraising program through a partnership with Woods Printing. And in addition, each participating school receives sponsorship funds donated to the elementary art programs through our Public Education Foundation. So we're very grateful for this partnership, and it is my honor to introduce Mr. George Albright, Marion County Tax Collector.
Thank you, Joe. It's very kind in Marion County that you would clap for a tax collector. Plus, Old New Testament have a saying, beware of the tax collector.
Yes.
Anyway, having said that, I bring gifts. I bring gifts for the 6 of you, a special tag that's been picked for you, and your name are on that, or is on that. And Joe, would you like to present that to them?
Yes.
All right.
Actually, I think when you come down for pictures,
Perfect.
we'll hand those out.
All right, very good. More importantly, you want the money. And you already have the money, but this is our check. Let me show the public. Yes. That this is for $20,000. So, and I apologize for having my back to the public, but as they know, but you may not know, during budget cuts back after 2008, the art programs and music were very much affected because you had to take what money you had and concentrate on core curriculum. And we were able to develop this program along with another tax collector in Polk County, and it's since been replicated all over the state. Several $1 million have been raised. We've raised about I think we're over $200,000 now in the 11 years that we've done this. Mainly it's fifth graders, but it's a hard and heavy, what should I say, competition. And we're very proud of the kids, but I know, as you all know, looking at these tags, that the inspiration that what we see coming forward with these kids is nothing more than remarkable. And kids that are involved in the arts and the music tend to be very crafted and go on to do very stellar things in the arts. So I think we're seeing the beginning in Marion County of some very famous artists and craftspeople come from that. Any questions?
Let's introduce the kids.
Oh, the kids. Let's do the kids. All right. No, okay, you do the kids.
We're going to do the kids. So thank you to the teachers and administrators and families here supporting your students. We have from Dr. N.H. Jones, and when they come up, they're going to have their frame tag that they get to take home and hang on their wall. We have 2 students from Dr. N.H. Jones who won awards. Elias Javalona won the Heart of Florida sponsorship. And Samuel Dradamata won the Woods Printing sponsorship. And art teacher Mel Broderick and principal Mr. Rob Hensel are here supporting them, along with their families. From 8th Street Elementary, Elsa Glover won the Jenkins Auto sponsorship. And Principal Mr. Bennett is here supporting the families. From Fort McCoy Elementary, we have Wyatt Baker. His teacher, Allie Powers, is here, along with Principal Jordan Surdam. From Harbor View Elementary, we have Chloe Holler with his art teacher, Mr. Chigazola, and Principal Ms. Baxley. And from Shady Hill Elementary, we have Camilla Kobek Arbenois, and art teacher Carla Cavalier is here, and Dr. Streeter McAllister, principal. And just going to make sure I didn't miss anyone. What school did, Oakcrest. The student, she came, yay! This is Lovely Johnson, and we have Mrs. Sandy, principal, here supporting. So we would love for the school board to come down and get their plates, and teachers and principals to come on up for pictures. Okay. Did I miss someone? I missed Madison Street, Roshni, Vishanagra, with teacher Mrs. Wetz. So sorry. Okay, now.
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, we can do this. Here we go. Everybody's looking right here, and 1, 2, 3, couple more. Moms and dads, this is your time to take the photo. And one more. And everybody say, tag art. Thank you.
Can I have the students back up to lead us in the pledge, please? Yes. Students, could you come over here, please? Over here.
Turn around. Turn around and face the stage. See the flag over on the left there? Right hand over your heart.
Everybody will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, students and Ms. Crowder and Mr. Albright. This is always a highlight for us. I love kids tag art so much. And the board knows I was a part of Jenkins Auto Group for some time and was on that side of things. And I just love everything that kids tag art is. It allows students, all fifth grade students, the opportunity to create something very special. And we all have unique ones, but mine says nobody's perfect. And I love that. Because that's absolutely the truth. Okay, thank you again, students and parents and teachers and principals and everyone who is here. We really appreciate you and all your hard work Art is so important in our schools, and you do a wonderful job every day. Thank you, Ms. Crowder, for bringing them to us.
And they had a nice crowd.
At this point in the agenda, we are at item 3.1. Board, the opportunity was recently created to publicly acknowledge contributions of our community, as well as the achievements and successes of student and staff members during the recognition portion of our board meeting. This evening, I would like to recognize Lockheed Martin for their recent grant for Project Lead the Way. Superintendent Dr. Gullett, would you please share a few words about what Project Lead the Way means to our district?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. Project Lead the Way is a transformative learning experience that offers hands-on STEM courses, as well as engaging professional learning opportunities for our teachers. And the purpose of the grant is to assist the implementation of Project Lead the Way, the computer science program in particular, in this case, in partnership with Lockheed Martin at Forest High School and Denellen High School. And we are very grateful for this opportunity for our students to engage in high-quality learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gullett, and thank you to Lockheed Martin. That's an incredible program and grateful for their support. We would now also like to take the time to recognize donations sent in from several gracious individuals and organizations. The Ocala Preserve Veterans Corporation, Controlled Technical Services LLC, and Lamar Advertising Company of Ocala, Florida. Thank you again for the generosity to our schools and community, and the detail of each one of those. Total gift for all three of them was $8,800. And Dr. Gullett, I believe, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the generosity to our schools and our community, because without generous support throughout our community, we couldn't do what we do, and the detail of each of those donations is located in the board packet. And then, Dr. Gullett, I do believe that you would like to have a statement potentially prior to your recommendation on the agenda.
I would. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you see tonight, and I know you've heard from many of our very active and engaged citizens, and so I wanted to provide an opportunity to both you as a board and to our public with some items pertaining to House Bill 1467. So before moving into the agenda, I want to share that we have in place with regard to HB 1467, addressing the materials in our school media centers and our classroom libraries as a component of Florida Statute 1006.28. As the Superintendent of Schools of Marion County Public Schools, it is my expectation that we continue to fully comply with all state laws and local board policy. Some of the requirements of HB 1467 as they pertain to library materials include the following. A requirement that materials maintained in a school district library media center that are accessible to students or included in a recommended or assigned school or grade level reading list must be selected by a school district employee who holds an educational media specialist certificate. That includes classroom libraries. An additional requirement is that school librarians, educational media specialists, and other persons employed by a school district who are involved in the selection of school district library materials must complete the online training entitled Library Media Training before selecting library materials. This comes directly from our state. This training must be completed annually, and I can report to you that the media specialists completed the state training in January. Our district has processes in place for parents and community members to review additional information and resources related to these requirements. So I'm going to briefly go over that. Following information can be found on our district website. Marion County Public Schools Searchable Library Catalog accompanied by the directions. The Parental Choice Media Center Classroom Library Book Restriction Form. The collection development procedure within instructional materials program as part of Board Policy 2521. Challenge materials within public complaints under Board Policy 9130. Media Center and Classroom Library Materials Objection Form, and Books with Objections in Marion County Public Schools, all available again on our district website. We strongly encourage and support parental involvement in supporting their children's educational success, and any parent or Marion County resident who would like to object to a book can find the media classroom materials objection form and submit it for review. Again, available on our website. As a school district, we follow direction provided by the Florida's Department of Education and state statute determined by a Florida legislature. Each year brings new legislation and new requirements for school districts throughout Florida. Our commitment remains focused on helping every student succeed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. And I believe we're at the part of the agenda where you make the recommendation.
Thank you. I recommend approval of the agenda for the March 28th, 2023 school board meeting with the materials in the board packet, those materials distributed to board members at the meeting, and the audio recording included as part of the official record of the meeting, with the exception of the following items. D25.1, D25.2, D25.3, D25.4, D25.5, D25.6, D25.7, and D25.8 that have been placed under discussion, and C28.2 has been completely withdrawn from today's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower. Second by Ms. Conrad. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 17th, 2023 special administrative briefing and work session?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. James.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conrad. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 19th, 2023 administrative briefing and work session?
So moved.
Motion by Reverend Cummings.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Thrower. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the January 24th, 2023 school board meeting?
Motion to approve the January 24th minutes.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower.
Second.
Second by Dr. James. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 2nd, 2023 administrative briefing and work session?
So moved.
Motion by Reverend Cummings, second by Ms. Conrad. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 6th, 2023 special school board meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Conrad. Second by Reverend Cummings. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the February 14th, 2023 special administrative briefing and work session?
Motion to approve the February 14th special administrative briefing and work session minutes.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower, second by Reverend Cummings. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the February 14th, 2023 school board meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Conrad. Second by Dr. James. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Clearly, we were busy in January and February. Thank you, Board, for your diligence and approval of those minutes. I will now ask the school board's attorney to explain the rules governing persons who wish to address the school board this evening. Good evening, Attorney Powers.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, in compliance with Section 286.0114 Florida statutes, The school board has adopted uniform procedures for public speakers who wish to speak at tonight's meeting, either regarding one of today's agenda items or a matter directly relating to the operations of the school district. These procedures will ensure that you, the public, have a reasonable opportunity to be heard on school board and school district matters. A written summary of these procedures is available on the table in the lobby. Public speaker forms are also located on the same table, and those forms were due to the school board's clerk no later than 5:40 p.m. This evening, speakers will be called prior to the business portion of the school board's meeting in order to the receipt by the school board clerk. Before you begin speaking, please state your full name for the record and spell your last name. Each speaker will have 5 minutes of time. However, if there are more than 5 persons who wish to speak, the board may seek consensus to limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes. When the speaker has 1 minute remaining, you'll receive a visual notice to complete your comments. Speakers may not yield their time to other people. Speakers and meeting attendees are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner, so verbal attacks and profanity are strictly prohibited. Pursuant to the procedures for public comments, item 6, speakers are not to identify specific individuals other than themselves or their child unless a statement is provided 24 hours in advance. The board is here to listen to your comments only. You may be directed to an administrative staff member following the conclusion of your comments for further assistance to address any concerns. If there are matters dealing with student discipline, including expulsions, they'll be scheduled at the conclusion of the televised portion of the meeting. Parents may address the board regarding a discipline matter at that time. To ensure student privacy, only a parent or guardian may use a student's first or last name. Identifying references to or identification of other students and/or their families is also strictly prohibited. A public speaker's speech does not reflect the endorsement, sponsorship, position, or expression of the school board. Thank you all for your attention to this board's requirements. Chair, that concludes my explanatory remarks.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. Board, due to the number of individuals requesting to speak this evening, I'm requesting that consensus be limited to 3 minutes each, if we have consensus for that.
Yes.
Okay, great. With that, Board Clerk, will you please let us know who we have up first?
Miss Avelia Perkins.
Elena? And Ms. Martinez Lopez, could you also potentially have the next speaker ready to go to, so we'll know who's on deck?
Sue Preston. Miss Sue Preston.
So Ms. Sue Preston will be next. Hi, good evening.
Avelia Perkins, and I'm a resident of Ocala. Thank you for allowing me to address the board and the community on the topic of banning books in our public school libraries. That would be HB 1467. It's no secret that anyone can go to the MCPS website under Library Media Services and do a keyword or subject search to determine how many books are in the library, which contain any reference to keywords. For instance, if you search riots, you'll get a listing which would include historical books referencing the Stonewall riots, the Watts riots, the hate groups, and even neo-Nazi groups that rioted. Other fields that also appear on the resulting search groups and is how many books are available and where the books are located. Attention should be paid to the fact that all young adult books are only available at high schools and some middle schools. The books that show up on these specific searches do not share the context or intent of the author or its educational value. As such, if you search the word gay, the forgotten victims of the Holocaust would show up. Why? Because within the estimated 10 million people murdered by the Nazis were scores of members of the European gay community. I believe the MCPS participates in Holocaust remembrance every year. Who then are we remembering? Only the gays who gave up their lives, or all of the Holocaust victims? When using the keyword gay in the search criteria, approximately 308 books are listed. Of the 300-plus books, only 11% are in middle schools, and less than 5% are in elementary schools. Again, all books are selected for age appropriation. Lest we forget that the LGBTQ plus community is a part of the Gallup Guides book series for youth facing persistent prejudice. Books in our library system are chosen for age appropriateness and distributed using that same reasoning. By the way, pornography, as defined by Webster's, which is still a recognized source and reference in today's learning environment, sexually explicit writings, images, videos, or other material whose primary purpose is to cause sexual arousal.
Your time
Lurid or
expired.
sensational material often used in combination. So please know that I have every faith that the current system of book review and selection meets all of the basic criteria to keep our students safe while providing age-appropriate information to help them develop into responsible,
has expired.
critical thinkers and valued human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Please hold your, Attorney Powers, please tell them to hold their applause.
Ms. Kirsten.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can hold applause, that'll help us get everybody's attentions heard. I'm not directing that toward one side or the other, but it tends to make it a little more difficult for us to hear everything. So please state your name,
Sue Preston,
and can you spell your last name, Ms. Preston?
Preston.
Thank you. Please begin.
Thank you. Book banning is essentially censorship. It's quite simply an assault on the public's right to read. Some of the most controversial books in history are now regarded as classics. My apologies. Such authors as John Milton, Francis Bacon, Descartes, John Locke, Voltaire, Copernicus, Galileo, Dante, Victor Hugo, and the list goes on, have had their books banned for centuries on the Catholic Church Index of Forbidden Books that dates back to the 1600s. Certainly more recently, 2016, a college in Russia banned 53 textbooks that included French surrealism and criminology because they were full of ideas alien to Russian ideology. The Harry Potter books were encouraged to be banned because they included actual spells. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou was banned due to ongoing challenges due to being anti-white and encouraging homosexuality. Alice in Wonderland was banned because animals acting like humans was an insult. A number of books by Ernest Hemingway were banned due to ideas of communism and sexuality. Huckleberry Finn was banned because it taught friendship between two people that was unlikely to be friends because of their race. So where does that lead us? Two books in particular. Flamer is about an autobiographical work about a 14-year-old main character that struggles with feelings of homosexuality while dealing with abuse at home, having grown up in the Catholic Church and its teachings about homosexuality being bad and dirty and sinful. Calls to ban the multi-award-winning book discriminate against non-white, non-straight America as it presents topics of gender, bullying, coming of age, fat shaming, and homosexuality through the eyes of an awkward 14-year-old teenager. Likewise, the 57 bus is a true story based on an assault of an asexual or agender Sasha on a bus whose skirt was lit on fire. She struggled with multiple surgeries, 3 weeks in a burn ward, while Richard, the person that set her skirt afire, is facing a lifetime behind bars. This is also a multi-award-winning book that discusses topics of gender, family dysfunction, race, justice, forgiveness. calls to ban this book discriminate against non-straight, non-white, lower-income America. So where does this lead us? If you're a fascist, Nazi, or other intolerant who agrees with erasing books from the public collective, as was done in 1933's Nazi Germany, then please continue to ban books. If you believe Florida is the most free state in the U.S., then please continue. If you want to retain your intellectual freedom,
Your
then
time
put
has
the
expired.
responsibility at the parents.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public meeting, and we are going to afford everyone who has filled out a form the opportunity to speak. But that also means that we have to ensure we are doing so with respect of others' opinions. Many people in this room have shared interests, and we're all here to help every student succeed. If you can please help us in maintaining order regardless of the position of the person at the podium, that will help us hear every viewpoint that is coming to speak before us this evening. Thank you for your assistance and consideration to this request. Ms. Martinez Lopez, who's our next speaker?
Ms. Kirsten Angel.
And then who's on deck?
Yes. And then who's up next?
Next will be Ms. Pat Driscoll.
Good evening. My name is Kirsten Angel, and I live in Ocala, Florida. Governor DeSantis has a policy, and the policy of the Commission of Education is if a book is not to be talked about at a school board meeting, it's inappropriate to be in the schools. And per Florida statute 847.012, if a book deals with erotic material for a minor, which is defined as someone under the age of 18, then it is a third-degree felony for it to be in the school system. And in order...
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Ms. Angel, I know we haven't even started your clock yet. We really have to maintain order, and that includes no applause. Please, thank you.
As I said, it is a third-degree felony for this book to be in the school system, and the governor is taking this very seriously. It is something that could be directed towards those that are responsible for it, such as media specialists, and even the school board members can be affected by this law. There is one of the many books in the school system that I want to address. It's called Two Boys Kissing. It is available at the Westport High School, and the entire book focuses on the gay sexual experience. It specifically does things such as, excuse me, but using the word as characters in the book can basically deal with anal sex. In addition to that, there is, humiliation and violence in sexual scenarios. And there are things in the book that basically deal with people challenging them in regards to sexual activities. There is a story in the book that goes, two people acting as, again, I hate to use this word, but assholes. They were very expressive and very conflicting, and they focused on the sexual deviancy in the nature of the book. These books are not appropriate to be in the school system. And as you can tell by all the people in this room right now, we aren't going to tolerate this anymore. We really want these books basically taken out of the classroom because they no longer basically deal with what the school system is there to provide. And with that, I say thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Angel.
Good evening. My name is Pat Driscoll. I live in Weirsdale, Florida. Before I begin, I want to say thank you, special thanks to Professor Suzanne Iovaldi, former school board member Don Browning, and specifically Dr. Diane Gullett for providing us with a very long list of pornography books when former school board Browning was on the school board. So a great thank you to the year and a half that he spent exposing a lot of the mischief that was going on at the school board. So as a quick aside, I know I have 3 minutes, I was noticing the social distancing signage on the outside of the building. I thought I wanted to share with you. Did you all know that in satanic rituals, participants are required to stand 6 feet apart and wear a mask? What are we indoctrinating our children with those signs? So let me talk about the book I have a problem with. It's called Out of Darkness. It is authored by Ashley Hope Perez. It's found in the Bellevue and Vanguard high schools. And this is I take issue with the violent sexual incest presented in graphic detail of a father raping and punching his daughter in the face repeatedly while his son is forced to watch. Excerpts include, "It's turning you queer," quote, "face to face with the N-word," I'm not going to say it, boy, "who should have been swinging from a tree." The rest of the N-word family and additional vile slang profanity included the N-word, a horrible word for a woman's parts, private parts, a couple of them actually, slangs, and I'm not going to say them here because I don't know if there are still children here, but if you all can get arrested for having these books in the library, I could be arrested for saying this in public at a school board meeting. So that's really what I have to say, and I think you all need to clean up your act. And all these people, thank you so much for coming out and showing these folks that we want to take control of who educates and what we are teaching our children. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I've asked repeatedly. I appreciate your interest and your enthusiasm in the speakers. Please hold your applause. Perhaps if you want to do something to acknowledge your acceptance, have the sign language sign for applause. We would greatly appreciate it if that would help us move this meeting along. Every time there's applause, it delays our time here tonight. Thank you. Ms. Martinez-Lopez, our next two speakers, please.
Bridget Smith and Randy Osborne.
Sorry, wasn't prepared. Bridget Smith, Ocala, Florida. I had stuff written, but I just suddenly changed it. At the beginning, we were told we were on sides. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm here because I have 2 grandchildren in the public school system. And coming here tonight, I had a long discussion with my granddaughter, and I think there's been some misinformation. I said, because I'm here tonight about a book called Tricks, and that is according to state statute 847.012, and obviously what Dr. Gault has talked about, HB 1467 from last year. These are the books we're here to discuss. I understand there is a process. My granddaughter told me about the book Matilda that she's reading today. And in that very first sentence, she said that it was about parents that are idiots. And I thought, wait, what? Why are you calling somebody's parents idiots? Why are you reading that stuff? I said, well, why are they idiots? And she proceeds to tell me the storyline. And it's an old book. That the father is an idiot because he is a scammer. I said, well, what do you mean scammer? And she said, well, he does this stuff. He scams people and changes their mileage on their trucks to lower it so he can make more money, selling the vehicle. So that kind of a book is up for a parent to discuss. And I totally understand the process. I have a form here, for the book review, and that's the parent's right. I get that. But again, these are the books that I think that we're talking about, different books like this. So I just want to tell the audience that I'm not here to ban regular books like Matilda. That's up for a parent to decide. The books that are sexual content, sexual excitement, sexual battery, sexual abuse, it's those kind of books. So, and again, I began this process again last year with prior school board member Don Browning, appointed by the governor, and he had requested an update on any potential library books that were considered, in violation of the state statute and the House bill that we keep referring to tonight. And at that point in time, he did follow his chain of command, and again, thank you, Dr. Gault, provided a list to us, which we had dispersed among the community, which were some of these books, obviously, we were taking from and going through the review process. And again, this book, I looked at the online, as you said, the catalog. This book is still present in Dunelm High School, Forest High School, Lake Weir High School, and Vanguard High School, and this was as of yesterday on the catalog, the search website. So I don't want to read right from this book, but the summary is the book explain, explicit sexual activities, including child rape and abuse, drug abuse, violence, alcohol use, and adult and child prostitution. And again, if we look at the statute, it's in violation, and obviously a student under the age of 18, the statute applies. So that's why I'm here, and I understand my review process, and I will for those other books, but it's these certain books that go beyond the pale that I'm concerned about. And I will obviously present a form to you. I have the forms online as well to do all that. And I know this, 3 weeks ago when DeSantis had his press conference, I think a lot of people were made aware of that with the book called Flamer. And for Marion County to be called out, I kind of set back because I think there were 6 counties.
Your time has expired.
Okay, so thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you, Artie.
Ms. Martinez-Lopez, who will be up next?
Mr. Joe Carpenter will be next.
Good evening, Mr. Osborne.
Hi, my name is Randy Osborne. It's Osborne. And I'm here tonight. I'm not here to discuss the recent legislation that was put in place for parents to review book content in the schools to be determined if it's age appropriate. Very specifically, 1467. It's not what I'm here to talk about. It's not what most of these people are here to talk about tonight. This is about Florida Statute 1847.012, that actually the governor's office identified as the distribution of obscene materials distributed to minors. A minor is identified as one who is under 18 years of age. The statute goes on to explain books and materials, whether printed, that describe sexual conduct, sexual excitement, sexual battery, or other types of sexual abuse. The statute goes on and explains the distribution of material on school property. And it goes and says this, and I quote, any person violating any provision of this section commits a felony of the 3rd degree. And then in the last part of the statute, it says this: the sheriff and state attorneys shall vigorously enforce this section within their respective jurisdiction. That's what I'm talking about tonight. Some of the people of the school board has known that some of this graphic sexual content is in the high schools. I know that because it was voted on a couple years ago. This content meets and exceeds the threshold of obscenity to minors. Let me be clear. This is not the parent's job to go mining for felonious activity. This is the responsibility of the school board to do that. One of the books was identified nearly 3 weeks ago as obscene material was this book right here, Flamer. It was identified in a press conference by the governor almost 3 weeks ago. This book right here, Flamer. And it disappeared. It was leaked out intentionally by us. It was leaked out. It was removed on Thursday. It was removed by the school board on Friday. The only problem is you need to go get that other book that was checked out by that young person that actually has this book that was identified by the governor. Flamer talks about someone, if you want to read the excerpts of it, I'm not going to go into that. I have more respect for myself to get into this graphic content of this, but I'm going to explain a little bit about what this is. First of all, on the front of that book, you see that kid holding up his fingers? You know what that is? That's a satanic symbol. That's what it is. That's religion. That's religion in the public school system. But I want to go on and say this. The book in the front is a satanic symbol. It's a graphic depiction of young boys performing sexual acts at a summer camp. Additionally, it makes fun of Christianity throughout the book while it's promoting a satanic cult. Instead of the job of the parents to hunt out felonious material, I would say perhaps it's the job of a local and state law enforcement agencies to start addressing this if the school board does not.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Mr. Joe Carpenter. Up next will be Lucy Sullivan.
Hello, my name is Joe Carpenter, Carpenter. I appreciate the information that was given at the start of this. I appreciate the information that was given at the start of the meeting here, but I believe the reason everybody's here today is because You were given 2 years to get the job done, and it's still going on. Thomas Jefferson said, "The Bible is the cornerstone of liberty. Perusal of the sacred volume will make us better citizens, better fathers, better husbands. The practice of morality being necessary for the well-being of society. He that takes care to impress the precepts of indelibly on the hearts, that they shall not be effaced by the subtleties of our brain." Abraham Lincoln said, "It is our duty of nations as well as men to own the dependence upon the overruling power of God, and to confess their sins and transgressions in humble sorrow, yet with assured hope that genuine repentance will lead to mercy, pardon, and recognize the sublime truth announced in the Holy Scripture, all proven by history, and those nations openly are blessed, whose God is the Lord." Both these men of our country's history and leadership, the founding fathers, we see that the Bible is the focal point of morals, liberty, and blessing. However, in 1963, the public readings and recitations were removed from the school. The Bible, which teaches, "Thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery," which was under question. The Bible that teaches that God made men in his image and his likeness, and we were all one flesh and one blood. He created them male and female. That is offensive. But we as a society, and apparently as Christians on a school board, are okay with graphic, explicit pornographic material to be shed in the same schools that won't allow the reading of God's word. Board, God doesn't change. God's truth doesn't change. The morals doesn't change. And even Jesus Christ, our Savior, even explained that he has protection of children. At one point, this was common knowledge. We did whatever we could to protect children. We as parents, we were supposed to protect the minds, the innocence, the morals. However, we now have school boards and schools that are okay with sharing explicit, filthy information with minors. Even Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google have parental controls. They have warnings and boundaries that would prevent minors from seeing such material. But where are the checks and balances? You say that you have them, but they're still there. Where is the same concern for the hearts and the eyes of our children? We are more concerned about preventing God's truth and morals to be excluded, while the inappropriate sexualization of minors and to the minors is promoted and readily accessible. Where are our priorities as a school board, and when will we protect our children?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Lucy Sullivan, a concerned citizen, knowing that our children are the future of our nation. I'm here to point out another book. The book is named Damsel, written by Elena Arnold, and right now it's available at Bellevue, Dunellen, Lake Weir, and Westport High Schools. So that tells me children as young as 13, 14 would be reading it. It promotes and normalizes explicit sexual content, including sexual conquest, sexual assault, sexual battery, sexual nudity, as well as the use of vulgar profanity and slang, all in a setting of romance. These books already mentioned, including this one, has no redeeming qualities. The books in the library should be for the betterment of the child, for our society's sake, and for their education. This book has content that does nothing to help them in the real world. As school board members, please make our schools better, the best they can be, for our children by asking the media specialists to show more discretion on the books they choose for the library. And I actually think this is grounds to replace the media specialist with somebody who has more concern about what the children are taking in their minds as they're developing. School is for education, not to subversively alter their way of thinking of society. That's not what the school is supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Mark Okus, and then we will have Agatha Kayaya.
Good evening, Board. Thank you. Mark Okus, that's OKUS.
I'm a concerned grandparent, have 2 grandchildren in the public school system presently. The comments Dr. Gullett made at the beginning of this meeting, I appreciate. I did submit a question of how is the screening process monitored? Obviously, 3 weeks ago when the governor called out Marion County and the Flamer book, really piqued my interest and kind of was an eye-opening moment for me. And I was concerned. I started looking into it, and those are the questions. From what I've drilled through your website, I know there is policy that's printed there, but the question is, how do we monitor that? How do we make sure that this is getting done? Is that a collective project from a team, from a workshop? One of the books that I found, The Hate You Give, written by Angie Thomas. This is basically a racist manifesto. It promotes hatred based on skin color, designed to incite division and violence against law enforcement, encourages and incites readers not to riot and destroy cities and businesses, sexually explicit and vile profanity, and I will not do that because our attorney said no profanity allowed tonight, but the N-word repeatedly used, the S-word, the A-word, and it goes on and on. This is currently available at Fort King Middle School. Now, I think that the first 2 speakers that were up concerned about banning books. It's one thing to have a history book. It's one thing to have novels available that is promoting and indoctrinating our kids with this type of content. So when we can get an answer back on the monitoring process, I'm retired. I'd love to help, sit on a workshop. If you need extra eyes, ears, fingers to thumb through the pages, be glad to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Okus.
Mr. Okus, did you leave contact information on your form? Okay, thank you.
And can we ensure the clock is running whenever we have speakers? Thank you. And on deck is?
Deck is David Rogers.
Thank you.
I thought you said Agatha Kaya was
Yes.
after.
Yes, you're next, but yes. Welcome.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Dr. Agatha Kaya. It's spelled C-A-Y-I-A. And I'm here to discuss all the problems that we all know of about some of these books that are in our Marion County Public Schools. Most books that have been reviewed by parents and grandparents don't compare to those by the classical authors mentioned by one of our earlier speakers. The books presented here tonight will show that many of these books are nothing more than how-to manuals exposing our children to sexual experiences of all kinds. I had picked out several passages from this book. It is called Red Hood. It is also by Elena K. Arnold, and it is presently in Vanguard High School and Westport High School. I had to catch myself as to whether I should actually read any of these passages because they are truly pornographic. They go into explicit detail about how to remove someone's clothes, how to put on a condom, how to pleasure somebody, how to hide the evidence, many things like that. As I said, I have bookmarked quite a number of passages, but due to the constraints, I'm not going to read those out here tonight. I find that these books have no value whatsoever to the benefit of the education of our children in Marion County Public Schools. And as far as a summation of this book, this is a work of pornography romanticized as normal life. The content is obscenely and explicitly sexual, coupled with explicit violence, allusion to rape of an intoxicated girl, with vile, vulgar profanity, including the words fuck and shit. Sexual grooming language and instruction is included to impact and impress young, vulnerable children who may access such smut and pornography. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next on deck will be Robert Schmidt. Is David Rogers here?
David Rogers.
Mr. Robert Schmidt?
And who will be after Mr. Schmidt?
Good evening, Board. Chair, my name is Robert Schmidt, SCHMIDT. May I have that? I want you to see this. I want you to see this. This is a list of 350 books representing 350 titles representing over 1,000 books in the public library system. About half of these books have been introduced to the school board libraries in the last 4 years. Half of those books, half of them, have been introduced in the last 2 years. 2 of you sitting here tonight have inherited this problem. 3 of you on a DS. This happened on your watch. Ask yourself how and why. Who tonight is going to step forward and address taxpayers' and parents' concerns? Who is going to take on the responsibility to do an investigation on the how and why? Is there an inside activist in the school administration putting your jobs at risk? Are these books here because of SEL? Is SEL clouding our moral judgment? If so, maybe we should consider another SEL curriculum. Which of you are going to say tonight, I am not okay with this? This is not about 1 or 2 books sitting on some bookshelf someplace, waiting for parental permission. This is about 1,000 books promoting an ideology. Do you condone school libraries being the enabler of deprecation of traditional moral values? I have been watching the quarantine list grow in real time as we've been going through this. I've read comments on social media from the activists who suddenly can't have books in their classrooms. This is not about removing books traditionally accepted as library works. This is about removing books that are trying to teach an ideology. How can you implement a code of conduct for students with consequences for language when the very reading material you provide students access to in these libraries would take and get them booted out of school? Loss of confidence is a cancer in the space of public education. Unless there is a dramatic change in the course, suddenly you will find yourself discussing not about overcrowding, but about what to do with empty buildings. In closing, parents deserve to know the students. They are not being influenced by activists with values and morals that are diametric to theirs. Remember, almost all of the books in my hand have been written within the span of a few short years. These are not classics.
Reverend Jack Martin, and then we have Sarah Clifton.
Reverend Jack Martin, I'm from Spring Hill, Florida. I think that might tell you that I find the issue to be a very important one. What I would say to you is that you have all been put in a position to make decisions that will affect ultimately children for generations to come. A lot of people overlook a simple fact from the events yesterday that took place in Nashville. But 4 of the last 5 gun shootings like that were done by individuals who claim to be transgender or gender fluid. Nobody stops, and I say this clearly, I have counseled for 37 years. 12 of those years I was part of the state of Florida ESF-8 emergency response team, mental health team. Nobody is stopping and understanding that these kids, when they have a conflict of conscience, which is what happens when you are operating outside of what is the norm, and they act on those feelings, and then they don't know what to do with it. They're in a bind in their emotions. My honest view of yesterday was suicide by police officer. It was an individual who'd lived a conflicted life, struggled with it, and figured what's life worth, went down there to do what she did, figured she'd make a name for herself, go out in glory, but would get out of her trouble. She's not out of her trouble. Anyone who knows the Word of God knows that. It's not about not loving these children. It's about loving these children. My second oldest son is a homosexual. And if I could only take a bullet for one of my children, it would be him, because he's not ready to meet the Lord. We've got to stop putting books in libraries that show sexual acts and expect these kids not to be affected by it. That is on your shoulders. That is the responsibility that's been placed in you. I ask you not in being cruel to anybody. I wish we could redo yesterday, and I wish I would have had time to talk to that young lady, because over the years in ministry, I've had the opportunity in those situations and been able to help. But we've become a society that rushes to making things that are not normal. It's like giving an anorexic food. That's what we're doing today with that issue. I challenge you before God to use your common sense, something that's not in such adequate supply today. Use common sense, make a decision. You're not banning books, you're banning pornography. When I was a kid, my stepfather used to hide pornographic magazines in the house. My mother didn't ban magazines. I had Sports Illustrated and everything else. She didn't let him leave pornography around because of the result. If you look at James chapter 1 and you read it, it says God doesn't tempt us. We're tempted when we look at things, ponder them, and eventually we act on them. And when we act on them, then we sin. I challenge you to do the right thing. Don't cave in to a voice that screams the loudest. Cave into the voice that is right. Thank you. God bless you. And I am praying for you.
Thank you, Reverend Martin. Ms. Clifton?
Up on deck will be Mr. Charles Dodge.
Sarah Clifton, C-L-I-F-T-O-N.
Ms. Clifton, you're going to need to pull the microphone
There you
down
go.
to you a little bit there.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. According to the invitation that went out on social media, this is a citizen emergency rally because the Marion County schools are awash in pornography. As of this morning, or as of this meeting, a list of this supposed pornography has not been shared. We were directed to a podcast where we heard all about the former board appointee, Mr. Browning, shared this list. Now, he's been gone a while, but I don't believe it's too much to ask that if a member of the school board had a list of pornographic materials contained in our school libraries, that such information be shared with the superintendent and the rest of the school board, at the very least. If a former school board appointee had done so, I don't believe it's too much to ask that the board offer a report on the findings of what I'm sure was a thorough investigation into that matter. If he did, I feel justified in including this entire matter is political in nature and has absolutely nothing to do with protecting children from anything except information.
Ladies and gentlemen.
The forms
okay?
requesting the review of any materials is easily accessed on the district's website. It is right there under Media Center and Classroom Library Materials Objection Form. So, showing up by the busload because the call went forth from, according to this, the Marion County, Florida Republican Executive Committee, the president of the Eagle Forum, the Nehemiah Project, former chair of the Marion County Republican Party, and current Marion County Republican Party committee man, and a podcast. If there is a list of objectionable materials, there is a way to bring them to the attention of the people we have elected to ascertain whether or not they need to be removed. So all of this here is political theater. It's not particularly good theater, but it's theater nonetheless. I don't want pornography in schools any more than the next person. And since it's illegal, yeah, I'd like to see it removed. But I don't for a minute think that the school shelves are awash with pornography. But then again, I'm not taking my marching orders from a political party either. So, if the board... Damn right.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's not do that, okay?
So, if the board is gifted with the lists that these people all seem to feel are on our shelves, if they would go through and ascertain if they need to be removed, I would be more than happy to applaud that. but this is a modern-day witch hunt. And we didn't burn witches in Salem. They hung most of them. Of course, they weren't really witches, but that didn't matter because everybody knew. Well, everybody doesn't know, and everybody in this audience is not here for the same purpose. Some of us really do respect the people who have been elected to see to the education of our children and the professionals hired to see to school books and textbooks, not mob mentality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clifton.
Mr. Charles Dodge.
And on
then
deck.
On deck is Len Rasapili.
Yes, my name is Charles Dodge, D-O-D-G-E. I'm not here as a parent or grandparent or a member of any organization. I'm here as a United States of American citizen. Give me 4 years to teach your children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted. Give us 8 years with your child, and it will be a Bolshevik forever. The goal of socialism is communism. That is a quote by Vladimir Lenin, the first dictator of the USSR, who was responsible for 17 million deaths. Hitler killed 11 million, he killed 17. I guess he wins. Get control of the schools. Let them use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' associations. Put the party line in the textbooks. Eliminate laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and violation of free speech and free press. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. By the way, my porn as a young man was National Geographic. So these quotes were from the part 3 of 45 Goals of Communism, as written in a book called The Naked Communist. This book was written in 1958. A 2020 VOC poll found that 40% of Americans have a favorable view of socialism. That figure rose to 49% in Gen Z, with a third of the Gen Z supporting gradual elimination of capitalism in favor of more socialist system. Even more shocking, 18% of Gen Z and 13% of millennials reported that communism is a fairer system than capitalism and deserves consideration in America. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I call the cooking of the frog theory. If you take a live frog and put him in a pot of boiling water, the reflex is the frog will immediately jump out of the pot. If you take that same frog and put him in a pot of cold water and turn the heat down low, by the time that frog realizes there's a problem, his butt is cooked. Ladies and gentlemen, this is indicative of what only is going on in American society. This is indicative of what's going on in our education system throughout the country. My wife quit as a professor of mathematics because she couldn't deal with COVID grades anymore. And she's one of the best professors I ever met in my life. She tutored me. I advocate one book, and I hope to God it's in the library. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the Constitution of the United States of America, and 8 million Americans have given their lives for that. And all I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I implore you, please think about why we're here when you make your decisions. I know you just want to follow the law, but some people follow the law one way and some people follow the next. And the only point I make is if it's not okay to read this material in your churches and synagogues, I don't think it's okay to read it in your school library. Thank you very much for your time.
On deck, we have Barbara Schmidt.
Good evening. Apologize for the bad handwriting. I know it was difficult to read.
You're here.
Can you hear me now?
Here we go.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, Board School members. My name is Len Racioppi, R-A-C-I-O-P-P-I. I'm a resident of Marion County, and I want to raise 2 issues with the board for consideration tonight. First, I fully support removal of objectionable books as demonstrated by the strong community support we're hearing here tonight. Others can cover this a lot better than I can, and we'll leave it to them to cover it. But the issue of sexuality, gender, need to remain within parental control. Secondly, as a graduate-trained industrial engineer, I really value education, and I tend to look at data. And I really implore the school board to increase its focus on academics. As published on your own website, we are lagging across the district in many areas. Quick review of the data. 67% of Marion schools are rated below average, with the state average being 41%. 24% are average, and that's about the average. So on average, we're average. 8% of Marion school boards are rated above average, with the state average for being above average is 32%. To get a bit more granular, for the 5th and 8th grade English proficiency, we're hovering at 40%. For 8th grade math, only 26% have that proficiency. This is not to criticize the hard work of teachers who come in every day and work the fundamentals and work with our students. It does, however, reflect the emphasis of leadership. We need to put the focus back on education, not indoctrination, and we need to help our students excel. Thank you.
On deck, we have Sarah Klitnick.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Schmidt, S-C-H-M-I-D-T, and I'm a resident of Marion County. I'm here supporting action to clean up our school libraries. I just want to go back to a speaker that was here a few moments ago. The list that came was directly from our superintendent, and it was given to school board, the former school board member, Don Browning. I just want to make that point. But again, I'm here supporting action to clean up our school libraries. Our students are our future. The current younger generation will be the leaders of our great nation one day. We want our students to be well educated with knowledge of things that are important and relevant. And focusing on personal pronouns and sexual dysmorphia is not why we pay taxes. Taxpayers in Marion County do get to say in what happens in our schools, because close to 50% of our taxes go to public schools. We want public schools to focus on educating students, knowing the school systems has values consistent with traditional moral values. We also want to be confident. We don't want to have activist teachers in our school systems trying to find ways around the law. Indoctrination is not education. Exposing students to books in the library about gender-bending ideology is a form of indoctrination, because you normalize it in the reading material you provide to them. In closing, you ask, why are we here tonight? Look at all the people that showed up tonight. It is important, and I hope you all agree that sexual graphic books or books normalizing filth is not representative of the values that we all stand for. God bless America.
Sarah Klitnick. On deck is Pete Axon.
Thank you. Can you hear me? My name is Sarah Klitnick. I'm a parent of a kindergarten student in Marion County, and I speak in opposition of banning of any books. It is unsafe, discriminatory, unjust, intolerant to seek to erase the voices and lived experiences of what it's like growing up gay in an increasingly more hostile environment for these people. These books are not pornographic by definition, theme, or subject. Our society is exposed at large to highly pornographic material by means of every social media platform, TV, online gaming, and pop culture, far more than any book found in a school library. Homosexuality existed since the beginning of time and throughout all nature. The most recent Gallup poll indicates 7.2% of the U.S. adults identify as LGBTQIA+. That means in Marion County, of our 384,000 people, roughly 28,000 people identify as LGBTQIA. Banning these books does not make a population more or less gay or according to your ideologies, but it will create an unsafe world for an entire people to live and orchestrate their lives. These bans only incite more obstinance, intolerance, and violence. Bans create dangerous environments where we limit access to new understandings and levels of acceptance. Book bans beg the question, who and what next? It is reminiscent of an authoritarian government in Europe who incited the most heinous treatments of people in history. It began with intolerance. First, against the disabled, then the homosexuals, then the Jews, and anyone with ethnic differences from their supreme race. The first acts to erase these people's existence were to burn their places of worship, their homes, and their books. We cannot let that happen again. LGBTQIA+ people deserve full representation in every aspect of society, including literature, including access for our youth to grow up with understanding and inclusion around these issues. The bans we should be fighting are for guns, not books. And I will finish with a quote by Jodi Picoult, which is, "There is absolutely nothing wrong with a parent deciding a certain book is not right for her child. There is a colossal problem with parents deciding that therefore no child should be allowed to read that book." And I close. Thank you.
On deck, I have Robert Burton.
My name is Pete Axon. I live in Ocala. You can't. Okay, can you hear me now? Thank you.
Yeah,
Name is Pete Axon. I live in Ocala.
Could you spell your last name, sir?
AXSON.
Thank you.
In about 1981, I was at North Marion High School as a junior, and I was in advanced literature class, and I was assigned an optional book to bring home and do a report on. I picked the book out. I brought it home. It was a book called The Summer of 42. Some of y'all may remember it. For some of you that don't, it was sort of musicalized by Garth Brooks in 1992 with That Summer. It revolved around World War II. A woman was left. Her husband was gone off to war. She was lonely. Teenage boy delivered groceries, then decided to help mow the lawn, everything else, and eventually it got into a sexual relationship. My mother came unglued when she saw that book. And she said, "Why are you doing a report on a book like that?" And I said, "Well, this is one of the options," and I took it. The next thing that happened was, get this, we had a parent-teacher conference with my literature teacher. And we discussed the pros and cons of that book, my parents, myself, and the teacher, and understood that she thought, everybody on deck thought I had the mental fortitude to peel back the onion of that book, look beyond the sexual implications and the other deep underlying things going on in that book. The fallacies of war, how everybody was involved by war, all that sort of stuff. My point is, that's what took place, and that is not what's missing. It is not the school board's job to find out what your kid is reading. It is your job. It is the parent's job to get to it. In the ensuing years, I was on PTA SAC for the entire time my daughter was in North Marion High School. She's now a teacher in Gainesville. And in most recent times, I've been on 2 science fair judging things, as well as I'm currently on a book review committee for economics. The outlying thing is this school system wants involvement in parents. Yeah, this idea that we need parents' rights, no, you need parent responsibility. And I will call into attack, it is an intact responsibility for the parents to know what their children are reading. It's not anybody up there on stage. Look in the book bag. Have a discussion and learn something from it. Thank you very much. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Axon.
Mr. Burton, and on deck I have Jennifer. I apologize, I can't read the last name. It starts with an S. Savage? Robert Burton? Is Robert Burton in the audience? Okay.
Robert Burton, B-U-R-T-O-N. I'm currently a resident of Marion County. I move around quite a bit.
Madam Clerk, can you start the timer?
I move around quite a bit. The reason I'm here is because I've been observing verbiage put out in social media with maximum dishonesty to bring the community into a state of agitation. Obviously, we have a political rally here where we should have a governing board meeting. I've interviewed teachers and librarians. I know that there's nobody in the community who's trying to indoctrinate any children. It's wrong for Mr. Ogburn or Mr. Osborne to accuse people of such things. And I don't like the inflammatory nature of what he's done. These people need to be more respectful. They'll disagree with that, but oh well, what they're doing is wrong.
Please refrain from using anyone's name.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, too late now. Thank you.
Jennifer Savage? Okay. Liam Treblew? On deck will be Vicky Treblew.
I'm Liam Trulib. I live in Ocala, Florida.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Treulieb. Books shouldn't be banned. Kids need good books to make them want to read. People shouldn't be able to tell me I can't read something. They're not my parents. Love comes in all shapes and sizes. Like books, keep our books on our shelves so kids can have freedom to read. Plus, we shouldn't be focusing on banning books. We should be focusing on banning guns in our schools. Uvalde, Nashville, all those stuff. You need to focus on banning guns, not books. And that's how I feel.
On deck will be Caitlin Treblew. Kensley, excuse me.
Vicki Trulebe, Ocala, Florida. To quote Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, a book is a loaded gun in the house next door. Burn it. Take the shot from the weapon. That is exactly what these special interest groups are trying to do to our school libraries and classrooms. In their minds, if the information doesn't exist, then our children cannot be influenced by it. These groups want you to believe that teachers and schools are grooming our children, but I can assure you that is not the case. I have taught for 14 years, primarily English language arts. I've been in classrooms, I've classified books, I've worked on curriculum. The books we have are not trying to change students or indoctrinate them. They're not trying to make them gay. There, I said it. Gay, gay, gay. Believe it or not, children identify as who they identify as, and no book is going to change that. What books do is allow for visibility and diversity, which all students deserve access to. The books that have been challenged and quarantined, which is just a fancy word for being banned, are a mixture, but most of them have one thing in common, and that's targeting a specific group of people. On the list are multiple nonfiction books. That means that they're a history and they actually happened. Some titles include Gay Rights, Pioneers of LGBT Rights, Stonewall, Breaking Out of the Fight for Gay Rights, LGBT Heroes Who Changed the World, and the Early History of Gay Rights Movement. By eliminating access to these texts, we are further marginalizing a specific group of people who have made significant contributions to our society, whether or not you agree with that. This would be akin to banning books about other large movements such as civil rights, slavery, or women's rights. Those things happened. Students have the right to know. Students have the right to be represented in the materials that they read. No matter how much we try or want to validate our beliefs, we cannot change history. We can, however, change the future. I've worked in elementary, middle, and high school classrooms. I can assure you that those libraries, both in teacher classrooms and the media center itself, are drastically different in each of these settings, and none of them contain pornographic material. A kindergartner would not have the same interest as a high school junior. That's perfectly normal. A high schooler shouldn't be forced to read Dr. Seuss and Easy Readers because they simplify content. But when we start challenging books and pulling them from the shelves, we are limiting the access to knowledge and quality reading material. In order for our students to be prepared for college and the world, they need to be able to have a choice in their literature. I fully support a parent's right to request a different piece of literature for their child. However, another parent should not have the right to prevent my child from reading a book at school. Books are a part of our culture and a part of our world. Teachers have no hidden agendas. Our agenda is to get children to read. And let me tell you, they're reluctant to pick up a book like Jane Eyre and really dig in. They can't relate to the content as easily. We need diverse reading materials in our libraries, and we need classroom libraries in our classrooms. No one deserves to feel marginalized or unseen. No one deserves to be erased from history because they were there. They lived, whether or not someone else appreciates that fact. I hope my children will proudly keep reading. All our children in the schools deserve the same opportunity.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On deck, I have Sheila LaCrue.
She's, you're gonna have to pull the mic down. She wants to.
My name is Kensley Trill. I live in Ocala, Florida. My favorite book series is The Babysitters Club. I'm worried that it will be banned because a girl, Marion, kisses a boy, and now another book I read called Drama is being reviewed for a boy kissing a boy. I don't see the difference. They're both good books that I have enjoyed.
Sheila LaCrue.
Thank you, Ms. Truly.
Sheila LaCrue. Okay. Karen Reed. On deck, Pastor Gerald Buston.
Ms. Reed. Actually, Ms. Reed is before you, sir. She's right behind you. Thank you.
My name is Karen Reed, last name R-E-E-D. I live in Marion County. Florida rejects an AP Black History course because it discusses the impact of race and gender identity in the Black diaspora. Book companies are told to change verbiage so it is not evident that Rosa Parks could not rest her weary bones in the same manner as her white counterparts. Instead, to paint this national hero as one breaking the law, although the law discriminated against people of color. A St. Petersburg, Florida school district is asked to bar a movie about Ruby Bridges and her writings describing her life as a 6-year-old integrating the school system in 1960. The request is made because someone thinks their children should not be subject to the racial hate prevalent then and persistent today, even though Black children live with the hate and the vitriol still on display every day. Of course, once the banning starts, it spreads, and it will affect everyone. So it spreads to a ban on a song by a country icon, Dolly Parton, singing Rainbow Land, or even a ban on your precious Bible for the pornography in the pages. I cite these instances as the volume and number continue to grow in our country, and how these actions that appear to be minor are reminiscent of the beginning of the Nazi state, the cause of the United States Chinese internment camps, the acceptance of slavery, and thus ensuring laws designed to deter Americans from learning the truth about our history. I won't rant and rail, but make a request. Marion County School Board, take advantage of today's technical resources and post on the school board site the complaint of specific books to be banned, and allow the community input to the current review process prior to pulling the materials and/or making a final decision. In the interim, parents today have a method of ensuring their child is not allowed access to things that offend them personally without forcing their thoughts and beliefs on other parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
On deck, we have Wendy Gallegos.
Good evening.
Honorable members of the board, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you, and I'm speaking as a man of God who believes the Bible and believes in our founding documents. And I challenge you all today with these words from Scripture that says, choose you this day whom you will serve. You're there to represent us because you're in charge of our children that we send into the schools that you all are over. The Bible says to train up a child in the way he should go. Pornographic books are totally against that. That's not the way the children should go, and they're too young to understand the ramifications of the kind of trash that is being fed into their minds by the devil and all of his cohorts, and some of them are here today, in my opinion, and I believe they've proven themselves. I believe that God is calling you all to take a stand against this evil that is permeating our culture and our country and trying to destroy us and turn us into a communist state-controlled country that the parents have no rights, God has no place in it, and I challenge you all today to do what God would have you do, and that is to take a stand against this evil, get them out of our schools, get them out of our libraries, and get them out of the minds of our children, and don't be indoctrinating them or allow them to be indoctrinated. Ultimately, you're not just accountable to the voters, of whom I'm one in Marion County, but you're also accountable to God.
Thank you, sir.
On deck, we have Linda Cheatwood.
I'm Wendy Gallegos, Gallegos. For the last 15 years, I've had the privilege of working with at-risk kids in a forgotten part of Marion County in Summerfield, Florida. A couple of years ago, the statistic was 1 in every 2 babies that were born to a single parent. And working with these kids, I have found that a lot of them do not have the parental support that they need. A lot of their parents are either involved in drugs or involved in other things that they're not there present. And these kids look to adults that can show them and guide them the way that they need to go. They can find this pornography on the internet, and a lot of them do because they don't have parental supervision. However, the difference is they look to you all as the school, as an authority. And when you have this in the school, when you have it in the libraries and you have it accessible for them, it's like you're saying that you're giving your stamp of approval on that. I know it takes a lot of courage to stand against culture and stand for truth. But you need to be able to realize that you're affecting the next generation. I went to Tallahassee multiple times to try to get bills passed to protect our children. And here's what I know to be true. If we don't stand up for our kids and protect them and protect their innocence as much as possible and teach them the way that they need to go, we're going to have a society that there's not going to be anyone that is going to have rules and regulations, and our children are going to be lost in that. There's been an onslaught of attack on our children. They need people that will stand up and protect them and get this pornography out of their schools and teach them really what they need to be learning in schools and education. If I'm not mistaken, the bill that we got passed in Tallahassee, not only does it say that it's a felony for this to be on the school, but it also says that parents have the right to then bring a lawsuit against schools if they feel like that their kids are being violated. And I can tell you, if my kid was in the public school, that's exactly what would be happening. But I can also tell you, as of talking to parents this week, what they said, if this continues, they'll pull their kids out and start homeschooling, because we cannot allow our kids to continue to go down this road. I'm asking you to make the right choice to protect the kids. I know it takes courage, but you got to do it, because we need this next generation to have good moral values and to be able to be children as long as possible. Thank you.
Linda Chitwood, and on deck I have Jean Armstrong.
My name is Linda Chitwood, and I'm a resident of Marion County. I'm also, can you hear me now? I'm a mother, a grandmother. I'm here because I believe in the Constitution. I believe that is there very good moral advice in the Bible for everyone. There's been so much covered today that I've completely changed my notes, and so I'm just going to wing it. So much good advice has been given today. The advice that one speaker brought up, the Constitution. You know, I believe the Constitution gives us the right to read and say what we want to say, First Amendment. So I should be able to read what I want to read. I believe that parents who have young children should also assess what the child is reading. I do not believe that the school board or any governmental agency should ban or control anything that a citizen of the United States wants to read, including our children. It's up to the parents, in my opinion, to if a child checks out a book from the library and comes home with it, and the parent disagrees with it, the parent could explain to the child why they disagree with it, and move on from there. I believe that moral teaching should take place in our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, and the parents should be in the primary control of the religious guidance of their students, of their children. And I'm very, very bemused, not amused, by the signs that say God is watching us. Well, yeah, God is watching us, and I'm absolutely certain she is amazed at how everybody in here, how everyone in here is trying to be the judge. Not everyone, but some of us in here are trying to judge others, and that's God's job, as far as I understand it. Once again, so many people have made such really good points, but anyone in this room who has ever read 1984, which, by the way, a lot of people would like to see taken off the school, out of the school libraries. It's about mind control. It's about thought control. It's about a strong, centralized authority trying to control what people can say and think. And any group, I just don't believe no group, subset of any members of our community in the United States should have the right to tell other members of our community what we can teach our children and what our children can read. And I am so opposed to any kind of censorship or thought control. Lyndon Johnson said that books and ideas are the most effective weapons against intolerance and ignorance. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Chitwood.
On deck, we have Sheila Coughlin.
I thought you said Joan Armstrong.
Yes, no,
Jean
you're up
Armstrong,
next.
yes.
Ms. Armstrong, you're up next. But then on deck is...
Hi, I'm Joan Armstrong, Armstrong. I'm 77 years old. I've been an avid reader for 67 of those years.
I became a voracious reader in my junior year of high school, a Catholic high school. My English class was taught by a nun who spent 10 minutes of every class reading a novel aloud, a novel that befitted our age group. I still remember one novel that she read 55 years later, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, about a poverty-stricken 16-year-old kid whose parents threw him out of the house and was now living in the streets stealing. He eventually was sent to juvie, where he turned his life around by long-distance running. What could be more oppressive than a Catholic high school in the 60s? Yet, there was no censorship. I did not become a thief from reading that book. What I did become was a sophisticated reader, a critical and empathetic thinker. I became an English teacher in high school who read to my students also from my own library, and then opened up a bookstore on campus.
Hold on just a moment.
Pause.
Takes a moment for system review. We had a power flash.
Are we offline?
Well, I'm noting your time, so you'll get your time.
Go to recess? Okay. We're going into a brief recess. We had a power surge, and it'll take us just a few minutes to come back online. It's 7:13, recessing. We are coming back out of recess. May I have order in the room, please? We are coming back out of recess at 7:21 p.m. And our speaker, Ms. Armstrong, has 1 minute, 45 seconds remaining on her clock for speaking. Please silence the room so we can respect our speaker's attention. Thank you so much. Ms. Armstrong.
I was saying before I was interrupted how I became a sophisticated reader, a critical, empathetic thinker, and how I became an English teacher in high school, and somehow we got through without censorship in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the early 2000s. Florida literacy rates are abysmal upon high school graduation. 50% of all students leaving high school in Florida cannot read at grade level. The results for 10th grade reading FCAT shows only 39% at grade level. Literacy in Florida as a whole is only 80%. It is ranked 9th on the list of states with the lowest literacy rates. Florida should be doing all it can to promote reading. Instead, they ban books and squelch the high schoolers' love of reading by calling everything pornographic. High school kids love to read about outcasts and rejects because that's how they feel they themselves are. The majority of high school kids don't belong in the clique of a cool, well-dressed rich kids. Reading novels about outcasts, being bullied, teaches them that they are not alone and how they can cope. Reading on their own also raises literacy rates. You will be denying their love of reading with your censorship. Don't be like the Tallahassee board, which just fired a principal for allowing an art teacher to show her 6th grade class Michelangelo's work of the human form from a book. Let the librarians do their work. Ignore the extremists who are doing the bidding of politicians hiding behind smokescreens. If they and the partisans were truly
Your time
concerned
has
about
expired.
school-age children,
Your time is expired.
they would not censor books.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for the help with the time, but I got this, okay?
Sheila Coughlin, and on deck we have Melissa Merriweather.
Actually, my name is Sheila Laughlin, L-O-U-G-H-L-I-N. I live in Ocala, Florida, and I thank you, Board, for this opportunity to speak. I oppose book banning. Now, when I asked to speak this evening, I submitted some questions, and my questions included, is there a current list of books that are banned? You know, I'm hearing tonight that there is an old list, but is there a current list? How do you access that list? How often is the list updated? And once a book is on that list, what's the review process? Are there any deadlines for the review process? Or does the review process linger on and on? There are many reasons to object to book banning. We've heard several this evening. Concerning just for book banning itself, respect for the LGBTQ community, and I can't say it better than that young man. Maybe we should focus our efforts more on banning guns than banning books. I want to talk a little bit about freedom. It's a word that's been bandied about a lot lately. It used to be that a parent could restrict their own child's access to a book. That's reasonable. Now it's one parent can restrict access to all children for a particular book. Where is the freedom in that? We're putting one parent's opinion on a book over all other parents' freedoms. One parent's opinion becomes the standard for all parents. Again, where's the freedom in that? Now, the objection to the book could be reasonable or unreasonable, and it could be based on a subjective application of HB 1467 or criminal statutes. Do we want to go down that slippery slope? Or rather, should we be working on providing an environment that's nurturing to all children, including LGBTQ children, Christian children, Jewish children, Muslim children, children with disabilities? Isn't it all of our jobs to make children feel safe? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laughlin.
Melissa Merriweather, and then on deck I have Bruce Seaman.
Hello, my name is Melissa Merriweather. I believe I'm audible. I am from Ocala, Florida, and I am here speaking on behalf of, Marion Education Support Professionals, as well as myself. I want to thank Dr. Gullett and the board for all that you do for us and for our babies. Every student deserves access to high-quality education. Every parent and guardian has the right and the expectation to participate in their child's education. That right should not infringe on the rights of others. Parents who do not want their child to access certain books can handle that individually through communication, just like parents decide whether they allow their child to participate on a field trip or in health lessons. As a parent and as an educator, it is our job to teach our future how to think, not what to think. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merriweather.
Bruce Seaman, and on deck I have Ann Zalick.
Bruce Seaman, Ocala. I believe we all want our community's students to have every opportunity to explore and discover throughout their academic career in our public schools. That's how learning and growth occurs. We also recognize that of the vast resources available in the modern era, not all are appropriate for our students, and they're widely different ages and development, and opinions on that are going to vary. And given the thousands or perhaps tens of thousands of books and media items housed in dozens of school media centers, classroom libraries, teacher libraries, it would make a sense to have a policy that allowed the community to make a referral in an instance when a book or other item may be inappropriately housed in any of the schools. And as Dr. Gullett pointed out at the beginning, there is a policy and a procedure whereby any community member can make such a referral for the staff to review and potentially remove an objectionable work. The school board did its job and provided a process to address the very issue which so many have been motivated to address today. This is the form, 2 pages, probably takes 10 minutes to do. However, all those folks seeking redress of their passionate grievance never availed themselves of this process, yet they're angry and aggrieved. If the issue is the referral of any book, the long existing process could have been used and the matters handled, but if the process is never engaged, books aren't what brought people out from their homes today. Rather, it is to make a loud, confrontational display, which sadly is probably wholly unnecessary, quite time-consuming, fails to make any contribution in improving the educational environment or resources for our community students. It's merely an opportunity to display passionate grievance. Oh, they had all kinds of grievances. And to grovel for the media attention. Now the cameras are gone, most of the place is cleared out. But proving to the powers that be in Tallahassee that Marion County is fully on board with the culture wars, even if the whole thing was blatantly contrived and utterly pointless. The grievance should be with the leaders who called for such a ridiculous venting and waste of time. But I want to thank you, school board, for your leadership and your stewardship. Thank you for doing your best to stay away from the distractions of the culture wars and focusing instead on the real work of our students' education, because of course that is why you were elected to office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Ann Zalick, and on deck we have Gary White.
Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Ann Zalek. That's Z as in zebra, A-L-A-K. And first of all, I would like to thank you, school board members, for having an open door for us tonight. My husband often says to me that the core of public peace is the ability to be heard. It's such a precious function in our government, and I commend you all for having that attitude, even though it's a lot of extra work. Proverbs 18:17 says, "The first to plead his case seems right, until another comes and examines him." We are not talking about adult books for adults to read. If a child cannot understand the book unless an adult explains it to him, then that is an adult book, and it is free to be pressed in America for adults. I do not want to audit any history, but let us not protect explicit sexual acts presented to children as though it is history. A child's first and foremost right is the right of protection. That's what childhood is, by adults in authority over them. And I commend you for including books that teach kindness and books that stand against bullying of any child. We can have those conversations about being safe and fair to one another, even when we're different, without breaking the laws that protect children. My training in order to teach school when I was a teacher, or now as I volunteer with the youth of this county, was that grooming or leading a sex-based conversation in any way with a child is abuse. And to quote a good friend, the content of school books is just one notch on the stove that is going to cook our frog bottoms. If we want to protect kids, then their school-assigned electronic devices should model the safety concerns to protect children from sexual grooming and explicit content as well. Really, that's the bread and butter of kids' education this day. It's not a book. I hate to break it to you. My mom was a librarian. I love books. But it is their electronic devices. There is a colossal problem with putting content that would not be considered a safe conversation for a minor to have in a building of public education for minors. And I thank you for hearing us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Zalek.
Gary White is up, and we have Carl Vollmer on deck.
Thank you for this hearing. I'm Gary White from Ocala, Florida. In this bag, I have 4 books, and those 4 books were read by a board of people and found to be pornographic under the state law. The state law specifically states what is pornographic. And for 14 years, we tried to get a law passed that made it a felony, or at least a misdemeanor, to arrest people who put these books in our schools, our libraries. These books were found to be okay for the seniors, or the top 6th grades, but not okay for the lower 6th grades. Now, I hate to tell you, but if it's not good for the top 6th grades, it's illegal for the bottom 6th grades. And they decided, and we spent a lot of time. We had a lot of good people reading the books, and some of them couldn't even get through the books because there was that. It kind of is weird to me that we have decided not to read any of the books aloud to you tonight because we have respect for you, and so we can't read the books. But a little kid can go in the library and read the book. Where is the respect? Where is the respect for everybody in this country? I still respect you, and I don't want to talk ugly in front of you, and I don't want my little kids to read things that are ugly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Carl Volma, and on deck I have Barbara Fitos.
Mr. Vollmer?
Okay, Barbara Fitos. And on deck we have Deborah Daniels.
Good evening, Barbara Fitos, that is spelled F-I-T-O-S. I speak to you today as a life member of the Friends of the Ocala Public Library, an avid supporter since joining in 1981, and also privileged to serve on the Library Advisory Board for over 10 years. And during my tenure, the library underwent a series of challenges that created widespread community controversy over the issue of banning books and censorship that sadly devolved into personal attacks against our library director and her family. There are those here today who are once again advocating the banning of books and censorship in our school libraries under the definition of quote-unquote pornographic materials. This on the heels of relentless legislative action that seeks to control what is taught in our public schools, by whom and with what content. Our very school board representatives, our superintendents, even our teachers being targeted for removal. And now here in Marion County, there are those seeking to go after the books. Marion County Public School System, as outlined by Dr. Gullett, has a robust system in place to deal with parental objections along with access restrictions for their children at our public school libraries. The policy includes protocols for handling challenges. Currently, for the 22-23 school year, of the nearly 50 titles under some stage in the review process, the majority are quarantined pending a decision. 7 have been removed. 1 is under review. And the majority of the titles in question deal with racial and gender identity and LGBTQ+ subjects. Interestingly, the one title removed, It's Perfectly Normal, Changing Bodies, Growing Up, Sex and Sexual Health by a respected pre-adolescent physician. The age-appropriate children's version was one of the first public library books challenged by the advisory board in early 2000. And that was the version designated for parents. It was a reference book that was not able to be checked out. Bottom line, banning books is censorship. There are policies and practices in place to assure that the parental rights with regard to access are protected. As the respected author Jodi Picoult wrote, books bridge divides between people, book bans create them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fitos.
Deborah Daniels, and on deck I have P. Lynn Raddock.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Deborah Daniels, D-A-N-I-E-L-S. I live here in Ocala. I want to thank you all for your hard work. Your support of all of our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our students, our staff, and our administrators. Thank you for all your hard work. I currently have 2 of my grandchildren in a Marion County school. I have been a middle school language arts teacher for many years, and I can positively say that our students and parents want our school libraries to provide a broad range of materials for all of our students. School libraries give students a unique opportunity for self-directed inquiry and access to resources to spark creativity in all of our young people. We have a radical extremist political group who are trying to divide our community. They call our teachers and librarians groomers without any proof. They accuse teachers, our librarians, They accuse them of indoctrinating with no proof. Do not allow it. It is political theater with no basis in fact. They have been misinformed for political purposes. In America, we celebrate free speech and independent thinking. These are the ideals of our nation and part of our U.S. Constitution. Trying to limit or remove those freedoms is not patriotic. It is censorship. And most parents in Florida do not approve of the banning of books. The small radical group is trying to impose a political agenda on our community and on our kids. Individual freedom allows parents to decide what is right for their child, but these extremists do not get to dictate what's right for other families. This is not about progressive or conservative. It's about doing what's right for our community and our kids. Do not put politics over our students and our families. Please follow those set procedures that are in place in Marion County for the challenge of books, initiated for all students to go to their school, complete the official forms and documents, and do not pull the books before the book is fully reviewed and gone through the whole review process. And thank you again for what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels.
P. Lynn Raddock, and on deck I have Joanne Dyson. Reverend Bishop Stockton.
Is Ms. Joanne Dyson here? Here she comes. Okay, thank you.
So on deck we have Reverend Bishop Stockton.
Good evening. I am Joanne Dyson, D-Y-S-O-N, no relation to the vacuum cleaner, unfortunately. I am a resident of Ocala. I pastor a church who for years provided children in 2 elementary schools winter break books for their gift to take home. In 2021, it was over 1,500 books that went out. But in December 2022, we had collected books, but concerns came up. What if a parent objected to Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks books? I have 2 fathers. Out of concern, we came to a compromise with the principal that what we would do is we would have the books on a literacy night so parents and children could choose the book together. Still, we had one parent object to one of the books. What right does one parent have against other parents' choices? I am concerned that we are creating an environment that is harming good discussion, understanding, diversity of families, ethnic, racial differences, full American history, sexual orientation, and gender identity information for our children. As concerns like this continue to arise before the board, I hope the board will stand for broadness of thought in books in school libraries and classrooms as part of honoring our First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dyson.
Reverend Bishop Stockton, and on deck I have Mark Avery.
Good evening, Bishop James David Stockton, Marion County resident for 8 years now. Good evening, school board. Thank you for all your work. And let me first say, I apologize for the length of time that you've had to listen to some of the stuff that we've heard on tonight. Because you have so many other important things that are really need to be focused on. I stand here very confused sometimes because I am a pastor. I am a bishop in the Lord's church. Not only do I pastor the church that I oversee every week, but I oversee other churches, not only here in the state, but around the country. I have several honorary PhDs because of work and study and things that I've done. I'm an avid reader. I read constantly. I read everything, because if I'm going to be effective in the season and in time that we live in currently, I need to be abreast on all kind of information. I also serve as the county's president of the NAACP, so I'm here like in the middle of a very confused moment, because as I might subscribe to be a liberal in my thinking, but because of who I am and what I believe in the Word of God, I'm very conservative. So no, I don't want pornography in the schools. That's a given. I don't want our little children subject to certain things. But the scariest thing I'm concerned about is some of the smoke and mirrors and rhetoric that I'm hearing. I keep asking librarians here in the school system, these books that they're talking about, that they're on our list, are they in our schools? And out of all of our schools, you know, one book that I've seen several brand new copies of, I've asked the school librarian, do we own that book? And they found 2. And they've been in the system for years. So even under some of the new rules and things that have been made, that our school system has done a phenomenal job, admirable job of trying to help parents make sure and feel comfortable that there's libraries in the schools have safe material. My concern also as a preacher, if I'm not careful and we keep going down this slippery road, one of my favorite books in the world is the Bible. And in the Bible, we read of incest, we read of homosexuality, we read of men marrying their stepsisters and lying about it. We read about whole communities of men trying to sleep with angels. We hear about so many things. When does it stop? Because I was raised that it's the responsibility of a parent to raise the child. It's a responsibility of the parent to raise a child. We are overreaching sometimes, and we're making everybody else responsible. Now, I want to know, how large are your Sunday schools? How large are your youth programs at your church? How many young people do you have coming to your programs where you're supposed to be teaching, instead of trying to run organizations that are doing the best they can with what they got? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Stockton.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening, Mr. Avery.
My name's Mark Avery. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I am a teacher, a parent, and the president of the Marion Education Association. And I was going to start off that I was surprised no one offered me a sticker, because I am a parent. And I'm never going to advocate for pornography in our schools. But I don't believe that's the case. It continues to be part of a rhetoric that we hear day in and day out from elected officials. I listened to one of our elected officials from our county last week stand up and in his committee meeting say that there's only been 175 banned books statewide, have been pulled statewide. Yet I'm hearing that there's a list, almost double that, in our own district, according to the folks that have come tonight. So I don't know who's telling the truth, but I believe in what we're doing in Marion County. I know that we're following the rules. I'm part of the committee that helped set up the rules, and I have the utmost confidence in the professionals that work within our district. And as a parent, and a lot of these bills have been about parent choice, it's my choice for my children. I have 2 elementary school children in our district. It's my choice to help choose what they read. Not anybody who comes in this room, not any person that wants to sit behind me to say what books my students have access to. Those are my children, and they don't get to choose that. They get to choose for their children, that's fine. I know that one of the things that I have said for the teachers in the district doesn't sit well with the district, and I understand that, because this law about people getting in trouble because a group of people can say, you put something on there or there's something in your shelf that I don't approve with. So I told them, take it off the shelf. If it's your book, why would you risk your future, your career, and your livelihood because a bus, which evidently left, that's why the room's empty, that a bus shows up and a bunch of people want to speak about things that they probably don't know much about. I'm curious how many people actually read those books or they just read an excerpt that was handed to them, okay? So our teachers are doing a great job. I know you're doing a great job. You know who's going to hurt the most is the students. I'll make sure my kids have access to books, but when a teacher takes books off a shelf that the kids normally have had access to, they're no longer going to have access to. The families that can't afford that don't know what to get, those are the kids who are going to suffer. Think about an elementary classroom where the kids have a 10-page book and they can read a book every day. So a classroom of 20 kids and they read a book every day, 5 days a week, that's 100 books that they need access to. And we have 90 weeks. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Avery. Do we have any additional speakers?
No, Madam Speaker, that's all the speakers.
Thank you to the 37 individuals that came and spoke before us this evening. We're grateful for your interest in the work of Marion County Public Schools. And at this time, we're on to item C 8.1. Board item C 8.1 is information only. As per new board policy 6345, the superintendent is authorized to approve and execute any construction contract change order that will increase the construction contract amount by $25,000 or less, or that will decrease the construction contract amount. At this time, this item is only included in discussion as it is related to 2 items pending board approval of the new warehouse. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda items C 10.1 through C 24.1 with the exception of items C 23.1, D 25.1, D 25.2, D 25.3, D 25.4, D 25.5, D 25.6, and D 25.7 that have been placed under discussion, and item C 28.2 that has been withdrawn completely from the agenda.
So move.
Motion by Reverend Cummings. Second by Ms. Conrad. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion? This is item 23.1. May I have a motion to approve the approve the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year annual contracts. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the fiscal year annual contracts.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower.
Second.
Second by Reverend Cummings. Is there discussion about this item specifically? Board, I know that this, the backup detail on this came to us late, and so if you do have any questions, now would be the time to have that. Or Dr. Gullett, if there's anything you would like to add.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. And Ms. Wantanisha Morant, our Executive Director for Human Resources, is available to provide specific information if the board would like some clarification. Thank you.
And actually, if I'm looking at this correctly, item 23.1 actually is not the annual contracts. Item 23.1 was the revised job description for the position control specialist. 23.1, I'm just trying to make sure that we are.
We're on C23.1.
Okay, so C23.1 actually is the revised job description for the position control specialist.
23.1 is what?
So it's now item 25.1?
It was under the consent, and once they're moved to discussion, after being publication, the number stays with it. So that C number will go with it under discussion. So if we go under discussion item, you'll see C23.1 is the first one.
Is now 25.1. Okay, thank you for that clarification. So on the screen, item C23.1 is now item 25.1. We have a motion and a second. Board, is there any additional discussion on this item needed? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Now, item D, 25.1. May I have a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the School Board of Marion County, Florida, and the Foundation for Chamber and Economic Partnership Incorporated? May I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Reverend Cummings,
Second.
second by Ms. Conrad. Is there any discussion on this item? Dr. Gullett, do you have anything to add to this item for us?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a special partnership we have for our equine program, and I'm just delighted to be able to say that we have a couple of special folks here, but just upon coming to Marion County, I had the wonderful opportunity, thanks to our Chamber and Economic Partnership, with roundtables with many of our business leaders, and one of those in particular was our equine leaders in our community. My takeaway from that, among many, at the top of my list was we needed to have an equine program for our students that matched us being the horse capital of the world. So thanks to, again, our business leaders and our committed stakeholders in the community, we set off to do just that. So we have Mr. Whitehouse here who has taken this work and moved forward. Ms. Riedel and, of course, Dr. Livingood have been here to see this action come forward. So I'm just delighted that we're here today with this partnership that's been in process for a couple years now. So, and I want to also call attention to a very special committed member of our community, Louisa Barton, who represents the Foundation for the Chamber. And she and I had a lot of conversation, and she is actively engaged in leading this work for our students and their future. And I think there's a bright future in Marion County for students involved in our equine program. And Mr. Whitehouse, is Ms. Barton available? I think she was going to visit. I can't see around the curtain, so as you probably know. But I really do want to thank Ms. Barton for sticking with us and helping us to see this. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Whitehouse.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. We would like to share just a little bit about the MOU, just so everyone is understanding what we're working through here. So, good evening, Chair Campbell, Vice Chair Thrower, board members, Superintendent Gullett, Attorney Powers, Ms. Martinez-Lopez. We're really excited about this new partnership with the CEP. As you all know and have seen firsthand, the equine industry in Marion County has grown considerably over the years. And with the growth in this industry, it also promotes the growth of new jobs and new career pathway opportunities for our students. Jobs that I've learned about recently that I didn't even know existed, and I've lived in Marion County my whole life, and this is a really great opportunity for us to start exposing more of our students to these career opportunities. So some of the things that we're working on and are going to continue working on in the future, one is, you know, we have launched a new equine academy at North Marion High School, and we have actually, with North Marion and the support of the College of Central Florida, have written an equine science curriculum framework that was recently approved by the Department of Education to be voted on by the State Board of Education. So we will have a unique, one-of-a-kind curriculum framework in equine science. We'll be the only county in the state of Florida teaching that. And we're really excited for what that's going to bring for those students. But beyond North Marion High School, we are also looking to increase project-based learning at our other high schools. With the addition of equine learning and the support of the CEP, we're working to bring horses to our other high schools that have the ability to take care of them, so that we have more students exposed, and also for our middle schools that don't have the large land labs to keep large animals, being able to work with some of our local farms to bring horses to those schools for student exposure for the day, where they don't have to actually stay there and be cared for. We're also looking to increase for our North Marion High School feeder pattern STEM learning for those students that focuses around equine science as well, to get those students excited. And I see we have our friend is coming up to visit us now.
Mr. Whitehouse,
I'm not listening anymore.
I know, everybody stopped paying attention.
I know, it's really hard to focus now. So this is also a part of our work for the future, is exposing our younger students, our elementary students, to some of our equines as well, so they can get comfortable being around them and just being familiar with what does working with horses look like, because it varies. Obviously varies in sizes and varies in the types of jobs that are out there. And so we're excited to partner with some of our community groups. We have one here today who brought Magic along with them. Also, some of our other groups we're working with, the World Equestrian Center, of course, Peterson Smith Equine. There's so many great equine groups out there that we're hoping to partner with. And between myself, Ms. Riedel, and Dr. Livingood, we're also planning to attend all of the monthly equine initiative meetings with the CEP. And I'll stop talking and let Louisa share a little bit about the CEP side for this too.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to see this happen in the horse capital of the world. This is actually Magic. She is in the Time magazine's top 10 most heroic animals in the history of the world, and the only current living one of the top 10. She does a number of things. She is an Ocala police officer, and she goes into the schools already with OPD for literacy programs and also to make law enforcement more friendly to our younger generations. She also, with her team of 21 other horses, miniature horses, visits 25 to 50,000 sick and dying people a year, both children and adults. So she does some amazing work. We're very thrilled to partner with Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses to be able to bring these horses into the schools. And yes, they are potty trained. They do not wear a bag. They actually tap the ground twice if they need to go to the bathroom, and they are taken to their trailer, which is pretty impressive for a horse of any breed. But these are very well trained. They go into huge hospitals, major disaster scenes. They were at Sandy Hook Elementary after the shooting. They comfort first responders as well as children and parents in disaster situations. They were at Surfside after the collapse, and they were in Orlando after the nightclub shooting. So they do incredible work, and we are thrilled that they're going to be part of our program. We're very excited that we're going to be able to bring horses to children who otherwise would not see them or maybe ever get to touch one. We were at College Park Elementary a couple of weeks ago with OPD, and out of 20 children, probably only one child raised their hand that had ever touched a horse before. And in the horse capital of the world, we feel that's just wrong. So we believe that the job opportunities out there are tremendous in this county, that's growing all the time. It was a $3 billion industry in 2015, so we can only imagine it's probably over $4 billion for Marion County, and to not have the necessary workforce to support that industry where we are, being the horse capital, I believe that children are not getting a chance to meet horses in a non-intimidating environment. They're not learning about horses, and they don't know about all the jobs that are out there. Grooms start at $30 an hour with no training, and exercise riders are paid $15 to $20 per horse they ride in the morning. They're done at 11 a.m., and the average rides 20 horses in the morning. So yes, they make more than the trainers. So how do we get children into those jobs? Maybe while they go to college, or in fact, maybe that's just what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And when we were standing outside, I said, you know, it goes from mucking to media. There are so many jobs. And some people start out mucking and end up CEOs of major organizations. So there's a lot to learn, and we're excited to bring our younger generations to these opportunities. 1 out of 3 households in America wishes they owned a horse. And for many, it's out of reach financially. So we want to make that possible, make those opportunities available, make horses non-intimidating. I started out at the CEP with the job of bridging the gap between the horse world and the non-horse world for adults. But I think it's even more important that we do it for these next generations coming up. So I just want to thank all of you so much for what you're doing, because it's so important here in Ocala, Marion County, where we truly do own the title Horse Capital of the World. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barton. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so let's do the formal part now. Board, all in favor of this agenda item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
No, not the horse. The horse didn't say nay. No, okay, so motion passes 5-0. Now, Vice Chair Thrower will not let us leave without going down and taking a picture with this horse, I can assure you of that. So Board, if we can take just a moment to go take a picture. Thank you, Gentle Carousel, for bringing horse for us.
I'll take that one home right now.
Slim to none.
That was a good stretch, too.
Yes. Okay, on to item D25.2. May I have a motion to approve the naming of the Vanguard High School Booster Stadium Field to Larry Fuqua Field? May I have a motion? Motion by Reverend Cummings.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Thrower. Is there any discussion on this item?
Call the vote.
I'll just say something.
Okay,
really quick.
Vice Chair.
That's okay. I just can't think of anyone more deserving than Mr. Fuqua, who has dedicated over 50 years of his life to the Vanguard Night community, and it was really my pleasure to communicate with Principal Carlisle about this initiative, and I'm just really excited to see it on the agenda tonight and looking forward to approving it.
And I guess I do want to say something. I didn't because it's a no-brainer. Mr. Fuqua was more to just Vanguard. I came up in a time where Forest and Vanguard had a strong rivalry, they still do, and he was present during all that time, and so his presence went further than just Vanguard, because at the time, Booster Stadium was both of our fields. So, well-deserved, well-deserved.
Thank you so much. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much to those from Vanguard that have been waiting for a really long time. Congratulations.
Go Knights.
Yes.
Throw a Wildcat in there every now and then.
May I have a motion to approve bid 3975GM Interactive Flat Panels, Whiteboards, and Related Equipment? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Conrad.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Thrower. Is there any discussion on this item?
Just a brief comment, Chair. I visited some schools this week, and they are really looking forward to these upgrades. So I'm just thankful that this is underway, and principals were super excited. They've got everything lined up. I know there's a million steps to get this process done, and so thank you for the team for their work. I know everybody's super elated to get updated technology, so thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve utilize Suwannee County School District bid 20-209 for Type 2B panelized modular buildings? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Reverend Cummings.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conrad. Dr. Gullett, is there discussion on this item? I believe that we were going to have some conversation on this. Ms. Dobbins?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Dobbins is here to provide some context to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dobbins.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Superintendent Dr. Gullett. Thank you for allowing for a discussion on this item. This item is to utilize Suwannee County's school district's bid for portables. This will allow us to lease or purchase up to 25 portables in the next 6 years for any need in our district. As of right now, I just want to update you based on projections. We're looking at a need of 28 portables to start next year. We are going to move 9 portables internally and then lease 19 portables beyond that. This cost for the 6 years is up to $3.3 million to purchase or lease. Once we have approval tonight, this work will begin immediately, as it will take from now until the start of the school year for all the prep work that our technical services department will need to do, and it will require overtime work throughout the summer to get these 28 portables ready for the start of the school year. So I congratulate them ahead of time for the job I know they will do, and I thank them for their hard work. And at this point, I turn it back to Dr. Gullett.
Thank you. Any additional comment?
No additional comments. We just are ready for any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Any discussion or questions?
Just a comment, Ms. Dobbins, I just want to thank you. We have a huge task ahead of us, accommodating all the students and the movement of students, and so thank you for finding a solution. And I, too, am going to go ahead and give my thanks for the team that's getting ready to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional? Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes, I just want to echo Board Member Conrad, Mr. Vianello, Ms. Dobbins, and your whole team. We're not going to portable our way out of this overcrowding situation, but it is a quick help while we're working on multiple other things. So I just wanted to thank you, all of you, for your hard work on this. We all know it's needed, and this is a step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I also would like to mention that, as Vice Chair Thrower has said, we're not going to portable our way out of this, and we know that more conversation is to come. And I, as a board member, am looking forward to seeing what the district presents to us as alternatives and options for the overcrowding that we have in significant parts of our county. So thank you, Ms. Dobbins, for all your work and all the team's work on this. Board, is there any additional discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the construction of a heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or HVAC system for the gymnasium at Bellevue Middle School, project number 23-111. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower. Second. Second by Dr. James. Is there any discussion? I just want to say yes. I'm putting air conditioning in our middle school gymnasiums where they have been lacking for quite some time. I'm ready to vote. Board, if you don't have any additional discussion.
Let's vote.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve construction of a new central warehouse developers agreement for new potable water line, project number 20-102. May I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Dr. James, second by Reverend Cummings. Any discussion on this item? Vice Chair.
Just the acknowledgement that our new central warehouse, we know it's needed, and having the opportunity to collaborate with the city, I think, on the water line, that's good governance. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank the city for their part in this as well.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve construction of the new central warehouse change order number 1, amendment number 2, project 20-102? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. James, second by Ms. Conrad. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes 5-0. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to see the difference in the two. Okay, this is item 25.8. May I have a motion to approve construction of a new central warehouse, change order number 2, amendment number 1, project 20-102? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Vice Chair Thrower.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conrad. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. I believe that covers all of our discussion items. The next administrative briefing and work session has been scheduled for April 6th, 2023 at 9:00 a.m. The purpose of the work session is to discuss annual investment performance review, comprehensive technology plan for students, student progression plan 2 of 2, summer school 2023, launch into learning, is what that's called, and the Marion After School program. The following administrative briefing and work session has been scheduled for April 20th, 2023 at 9:00 a.m. The purpose of the work session is to discuss comprehensive mental health plan, the 2023-2024 school start and stop times, district staffing plan, an annual investment performance review, and Safe Schools sworn status update. At this time, we will have board member comments and committee reports. And we will start with the board clerk. Anything?
Board members, just to let you know that the books have been placed in your mailboxes, the one that Ms. Teresa Basanello is from the auditors. They're all in your mailbox this evening, so please make sure you stop by and pick them up on your way.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Attorney Powers.
I would just like to take a moment to say that over the past probably 3 weeks, I've had to engage in projects with a number of different departments, a number of staff, and a number of administrators within those departments on rather complex legal things that we need to sort out and do. And it's a testament to their professionalism. And I just wanted to say to the superintendent, your staff has really gone above and beyond on a number of these projects that have taken extensive discussion, work. I know they keep me busy for quite some time. So to each of you that are out there that I've worked with over these last several weeks on some of these projects, you know who you are. Thank you so much. And there are a couple that I'm still getting to. But for all of you, thanks very much. It is very much appreciated, as no one of us has all of the information we need for all pieces of the puzzle. So thank you very much from the legal department.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. Dr. Gullett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Very briefly, we do have a very dedicated team. I am very grateful. We have a lot going on and will continue to, I think, with legislation. I just want to speak just briefly to where I started the evening with a statement about following all state laws. And to my knowledge, everything that has come to us, either directly to me or through my team, has been addressed and will continue to be. I do want to include, even though it's referenced with the House Bill, Florida Statute 847, .001, which was referenced tonight, that is inclusive of our process. So I just wanted to reference that. But we remain committed to doing our very best to do what's best for our students. And so I thank you all in your support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett. Dr. James.
Good evening, Marion County community. It has been a month since our last board meeting, and I feel like so much has happened. I've enjoyed visiting a variety of school campuses this past month, meeting with school leaders and staff, and learning how I can best help our community in my role as a school board member. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the tragic and horrible acts that occurred in Nashville, Tennessee yesterday. As a mother who sends her children to school each day, this is one of my worst fears. An insane gunman or woman killing innocent children. My deepest condolences go out to every single individual affected by this heinous event. One of the things I've been thrilled to notice as I've visited our schools is how far we've come this school year with our security efforts. I visited many schools that, during my previous visit, only had a doorbell, not a buzzer. But I was happily surprised to find their buzzer installed during my visit this past month. I spoke with Mr. McFadden just today, and he shared with me that we only have 3 schools remaining where door buzzers are needed, 3 schools remaining to have cameras installed, and fence hardening is almost complete. We have made a tremendous improvement this school year with school safety, and that speaks to the hard work of Mr. McFadden and his entire department. Over the last month, I enjoyed a variety of events throughout our district, and I want to highlight just a few. I enjoyed the opportunity to be a judge for the Bellevue High School Senior Capstone Projects. It was nice to be back at the View and see the great work they're doing there. We have some pretty amazing seniors headed to great places after graduation. I visited one of our MCPS career camps held at Howard Academy and saw the great work our HR department, led by Ms. Morant, is putting in to prepare our district for the recruitment season. It was a terrific afternoon for our community. Not only were we helping individuals prepare their resumes for potential interviews, but we were also showing people how to apply for our jobs. I want to thank our school and district staff who made it a priority to be there, outside of their normal work hours, to support this effort. The school leaders that participated had the first opportunity to snag some great hires for next year. It was a wonderful afternoon. The Special Olympics at Hillcrest School was a heartwarming day full of fun, dancing, and hamburgers cooked by the one and only Miss Manresa. Watching the joy and magic that comes from every corner of that campus is always very special. The ribbon cutting at Acceleration Academy highlighted exactly why we need a program like this in Marion County. This school will be just another way we are able to meet our students where they are. Mr. Livingston is the perfect leader for that campus, and I can't wait to see how, under his leadership, that campus helps improve our graduation rate in Marion County. In our last work session, we were able to schedule a special work session to address the topic of our superintendent's evaluation tool and the use of our existing climate culture survey used for school-based leaders to be used for our district leaders as well. I'm grateful for this opportunity to have public discourse on the topic. Over the last few weeks, the topic of books and other library resources has been of heightened focus. I believe that the processes our district has set up meet the expectations set forth in state law. In addition, I think it is important to note that as a board member, I am always going to support decisions that are aligned with our laws. I believe that personal feelings about matters must be set to the back burner and a focus on complying with law be brought forth. These times are controversial and fueled with a lot of opinion. I will always try my best to respect each individual's unique belief systems while maintaining compliance with law. I acknowledge that there are individuals who are not aligned with our processes, and my prayer would be that they find peace in our journey to maintain compliance with state law throughout Marion County Public Schools. In closing, I believe I have shown this community that I am an advocate of transparency, and I'm not afraid of uncomfortable conversations. My request for the community is this: if something is going on in MCPS that you are not happy with, and you have been unable to find a resolution with school or district staff, email me, call me. Last Thursday, a concerned parent contacted me about a book in their child's 9th grade ACE general paper class. The book was titled The 57 Bus. This book concerned me too, both as a mother and a board member. I contacted our superintendent and district staff, and by the end of the day, this Monday, just 3 school days later, that book was removed from classroom instruction until further review can be completed on the book. I will find a resolution for you. I cannot promise that you will love my resolution, but give me an opportunity to work for you. I heard you tonight, I noted your concerns, and it will be a focus of mine to address them immediately. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you all each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. James. Reverend Cummings.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few things. One is an announcement. This Saturday, April 1st, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., there is an event going on in several of our schools. I think the community needs to know, if they haven't heard, that there will be free Chromebooks for MCPS students. Some of these kids, many of our kids need this, and I want to encourage them to please get the flyer and please show up. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. I think they have to have their student numbers, present their student numbers to receive these Chromebooks. There is some misinformation that they can get 2 is per student, per student. So please, there's different sites around the county, and if we haven't come to your site this time, we'll be getting to your part of the county at some point. Tonight, we witness freedom of speech in all of its glory and all of its ugliness as well. I also know that this board has been committed to doing the right thing, doing what's legal, and taking care of business and looking out for our students. Marion County has over 570,000 books, titles in our school district, over 570,000 titles, and very small percentage has been identified as something being wrong with it. And several years ago, this board, some of us were on the board at the time, went through a process where books were brought to us, and we discussed those books. And there was a implementation of a policy, a process of how to deal with books if they were deemed inappropriate for students. That process has been working. Every now and then things will slip through. However, this bill just came about last year, so obviously these books may have been there prior to the bill. However, there's a process that the county put in place, and that every parent has the right to invoke when they feel that something is, a book is not suitable for their child to read. I want to thank the superintendent because in her opening statement tonight, she addressed that process. She let everyone know that we have a process, that we have followed the law, and that it is our intent to continue to follow the law. Many of you have heard this board say that we will be in compliance with the law. We will not break the law. We will continue to do those things that are lawful, because we will not be an unlawful board. The process for reviewing the books is out there on our public website. I want to encourage folk to familiarize themselves with the process, to know it, and then situations like this won't have to be sensationalized or politicized, because I don't think any of us as parents want our kids to read inappropriate things or things that are not age appropriate. However, I listened to all of this tonight, and I heard a lot of things that to me was just downright sensationalism. I got some other words that I could say, but just a bunch of junk. I value everyone's opinion. I value their rights. However, to cast a negative light on the district as if we are promoting or distributing pornography or endorsing pornography. I don't think any one of us up here, and I can only speak for myself, but I don't think any one of us up here would endorse any kid or this district distributing pornographic materials to anyone, even if they were of age to have it. I just don't believe that. I heard several books that were being considered. I talked to several district folk yesterday because I wanted to make sure that I was well abreast on these titles. I went and bought the books to see for myself, and I think before we start making rash judgments, I bought Flamer. I bought the 57 bus. Haven't completed reading, but I did do a quick review of those books. There are some things that can be considered inappropriate. I think parents have a right to know that, and parents need to invoke that process if they feel that those books are inappropriate, or as Dr. James said, reach out to the district to find out what they can do, rather than to light the match and pour gas on it, because that's what we saw here tonight. Someone poured some gas and threw a lit match on it. To hear people from other counties coming here in our county to address an issue that really isn't an issue that we would have taken care of, that we will take care of, because we are about following the law. I heard one of the speakers say, "You guys just need to make the right choice." When I heard that, I thought about a movie. And this movie probably would, by certain groups that spoke tonight, they would say this movie is pornographic or not suitable for students to see. But I saw the movie in college. And this movie came out in 1989. It's a Spike Lee movie called Do the Right Thing. She said, make the right choice. No, we have to do the right thing. Doing the right things means following the law. Doing the right, even if we disagree or have issues with the law, we have to do the right thing. Doing the right thing means taking care of our students, taking care of our staff, not putting our teachers in a situation where they feel like they're going to lose their license because they have a book in their classroom. I agree with Mr. Avery. If it's going to cause consternation, take it off your shelf. But let's do what we need to do so we can protect our staff and protect our students and protect our community. I agree. But in doing the right thing, and I just got to give this because this is a Spike Lee movie. And in 1999, the film was deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. It was deemed that by the Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. In this movie, it talked about racial tension. In this movie, there was a love scene. In this movie, there was a person that in the community that committed crime and did different things. But there was value in it because it demonstrated everyday life in this country. All of us aren't the same. All of us don't do the same things. All of us have different types of people in our families that we deal with on a regular basis. However, to try and put everybody in the same box is wrong. So I believe this board is going to always do the right thing. I believe whether we disagree or agree on individual things, the board as a whole is going to do the right thing. So I want to encourage our community, when situations like this arise, instead of making a choice to politicize or sensationalize something, just do the right thing. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Reverend Cummings. Ms. Conrad.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I appreciated the robust conversation and all the people that showed up this evening. And I appreciate the processes that were already put in place from Dr. Gullett's guidance. And I see Dr. Livingood is still here, hanging in. She's been answering our questions. We've been looking at books, and I feel that we have a very good process in place. And it didn't just start. It's been in place. So I want to thank the team for all of their work in that area. I want to say that I have nieces and nephews in our public schools. I'm a classroom teacher, and I am a media specialist. We have a lot of children that we are responsible for. It also came, a lot of the conversation, there was a lot of things I learned tonight from both sides that were presenting. And I think it's important to remember that children's brains are not fully developed until they're 25. I think there's even new research that in boys, 21, but in new research it's 25. And then we do have to be very careful at our public schools what we have, what everyone has access to. Just because they don't have access at our public schools doesn't mean that they don't have access at our public libraries, digital devices with reading apps, our bookstores. All of those are other options for our children to get exposure in other topics that may not be permissible in public schools. I think it's interesting that we have movies and we have video games that have age recommendations. 18 for sexual and violent content in both of those areas with video games and movies. So I think that's something to consider. I'm also interested in, I think it's important that we're teaching love, compassion, and tolerance, and we don't have to do it through a controversial book. It should be part of our everyday living in the school environment. Freedom was used a lot. And I think when we talk about the bills that we're looking over and we're following, we have to remember that parents have freedom. And in most cases, that's why these bills and laws were decided, to give parents freedom. So parents have freedom if you don't find the resources you need or that you find are best for your child. There are a lot of other options out there to help you find the material that you're looking for or that you think is appropriate. As I look at helping being part of this process, in the back of my mind, it's always what's best for all of our students in developing their academic excellence. I also wanted to give an extra thank you for the equine presentation we had this afternoon. It was fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to that program being developed at North Marion. Thankful for the children and families that showed up for the tag art first thing. That was very inspirational. And my final comment, I just wanted to say, I had the privilege of attending a memorial service for John Gibb this week. And a common theme that was shared is be kind to one another. And so my closing comment is just to remind everyone, students, staff, members of the community, even when we differ on our opinions and are making decisions that affect everyone in our community, to be kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad. Vice Chair Thrower.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for their participation tonight, for sharing their comments with us. Yes, it took a long time, but I think that's one reason why we wanted to be in a bigger space, so that we could make people feel welcome, and that when they have a hot button issue on their mind, that they have a comfortable space to come and share respectfully. And that mostly worked. I thought it was genius of our chair to suggest sign language for applause. You know, with a few reminders, everybody managed to comply with that. And it gives us all a chance to hear the different perspectives. And you know, I'll say this, I was inspired for a couple reasons. First of all, it's interesting just how evenings work out. We had a very large crowd, and that meant that the children from the tag art had a very large audience to appreciate them and to see the connection of how this community comes together for them. And that's really important. Parent involvement, that's freedom to be involved. And I believe that's what we've been shooting for all this time. You know, it's too bad that it's come down more and more from on high, what we have been committed to doing always in Marion County. And that is encouraging parents, you know, to really be the ones that are raising their children. And that's not that easy to do anymore, because in a linear sense, you know, you had parents and you had grandparents, a lot of times great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, you know, school is where kids got exposed to some things. But now exposure is coming from so many places that it's pretty hard. I don't envy parents in some ways that have kids, young kids, that they're trying to raise these days, because there's just so many influences. And the world is just full of agendas. And I've learned that, you know, the hard way. And sometimes issues become weaponized and politicized, and our children land in the crosshairs. And I couldn't think of anything more unfair and unproductive. I know as a community, and the community that I've loved and lived in for 32 years, that we do know how to work together. We do know how to access our school board members. I can't tell you how many people I've run into in Publix. I try to have dinner at Outback, and the next thing I know, I'm talking to someone from the community about something. But you know what? I don't see that as a burden. I see that as an opportunity, because it's at the local level where you can have all the laws you want, but it's how they're implemented and how things get solved and how we're showing our children as adults how we work together to address complex problems, to make sure that we are staying focused on innovating, elevating, and accelerating success. And we all know that we are not satisfied with our reading proficiency. And so as we work our way through this process, continuing to have and provide access to books for our children is absolutely paramount. I don't think that there's anyone that I've come across, myself included, that are interested in providing smut and some of the things I've heard about tonight. I'm familiar with the list, and there were a couple of books that were raised tonight that it was shared that they're still on our shelves. Well, that's a contrast to what I saw on the website, but that's not a he said, she said thing. That is an opportunity to look into it and get answers. Because as we navigate through this, we need the process to work, and we need it to work quickly so we can address things and move on. And I think to a large extent, we're being successful at doing that. It's the weaponization and the politicization that bothers me, where the system gets played, where someone can come in and challenge 200 books at a time. And while they might not like those books, then that means nobody else has access to those books either. So I would just politely and respectfully ask from the community that as you partner with us to try to do what's best for kids always and provide them the access to the materials they need to leave us as well educated as possible and ready for the next step. Let's work together on the process. And I think we're all pretty open. I think we all do a lot of community involvement and engagement. And sometimes it just feels good, to come as a crowd and say what you have to say and, exercise your First Amendment rights. And that's why we're here. But I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that in the end, I do believe that we all have the best interests of our kids at heart. And when there is a local process that generates local conversations, I think that we'll get to that stable place more quickly and with a lot less burden on people that are already so overworked. And I look directly at teachers that are still in the audience tonight that I know have to go to work tomorrow and district people. There's a lot of things you can do for jobs these days, but you choose to remain here to work through such important issues that truly affect not just Marion County, but by extension the state and the world. And 570,000 books is a lot of books. So I would also ask for a little bit of compassion. With that many books and a new process and trying to work through everything, things are going to get missed. And if they get missed, you address it. We're committed to complying with the law, and the law is pretty clear in a lot of ways about what we can and can't do. And I think Marion County's always been pretty committed to finding that balance. And so I just want to close by saying that I continue to be inspired by the level of commitment and the willingness to continue to do this work at this time. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thrower. My board members have shared a lot of the similar thoughts of what I have had, but I want to first say that I'm grateful for the number of speakers that we had this evening and the room full of folks that we had come and join us. People are passionate about public education. That's a good thing. And I assure you, this board member intends to always do the right thing, regardless of our differences. As long as we continue to have dialogue rather than shouting each other down, we can have productive outcomes. And I am committed to loving my neighbors as myself. Multiple comments also came forth about media specialists and teachers, and even some recommended the removal of those individuals. I encourage any of those who came and shared this evening, who also have the gift of teaching, to come and give us a try. Marion County Public Schools is hiring. We have lots of opportunities, and we welcome you to join our ranks. Come give us a try, come and apply. Tonight in the consent agenda, we scheduled a public hearing for upcoming policy updates on April 25th. Policies are my love language. I appreciate the hard work that this board continues to put into ensuring our board policies not only align with state statute, but also meet the unique needs of our district. Also in the consent agenda, we approved some school audits, and as is habit of mine, I would like to say congratulations to Greenway, Saddlewood, and South Ocala Elementary Schools for their perfect audits. Tomorrow morning, we will be a few of us will be traveling to Tallahassee for Marion County Day. So yes, that alarm clock at 4:15 in the morning is not going to be fun, but we're dedicated and that's what we do. This weekend, I had the opportunity to participate in a community dialogue around the interest specifically of Black residents of Marion County. And I wanted to share with the board, I know several of us were there as well, but in that dialogue regarding Marion County's Black residents at the Mary Sue Rich Community Center at Reed Place, there was a host that facilitated it, and it was the first of many community conversations where the intent is to create a strategic plan with measurable outcomes and accountability around issues of relevance to the community. Again, speaking my love languages. All of the groups, I want to tell for those of you who were not present, all of the groups identified education and workforce education as top priorities. So I'm happy that that discussion is going to continue, and I'm glad to be a part of it, as are several of the board members sitting here. I wanted to express, as I'm kind of wrapping up here, and I know we've been here for quite a while, but I do have continued concern about the weight of the backpacks of our secondary students. And I have expressed this to Dr. Gullett, and I know she's been talking it over with the team. I've even been asking board members around the state how their schools deal with the weight of some of their students' backpacks, because I've asked my own children. I know we had a parent that came and spoke before us several weeks ago, carrying their 30, 40-pound backpack of their own child's. I know I have some ideas of what's causing some of that, but that is neither here nor there at this point, because I'm open to solutions. I have a few, but certainly I don't know how we want to overcome that. But it is going to take some work, but it's important work, because we want to help every student succeed, and we care about the health and the safety of students. And the weight of the backpacks is significant, and we need to take it as such and figure out how we can, rather than continuing to say, yep, that's the way it's always been, or yeah, as soon as the lockers went away, that's what happened. If you're an incoming sixth grader in middle school, the change from never having to carry anything to carrying your life in your backpack every day is rather significant and is potentially impacting the health of some of our students and their backs. I appreciate Ms. Conrad for mentioning the funeral services of Mr. Gibb. It was quite an emotional time. That funeral was a wonderful, we learned a lot as we talked today in the Public Education Foundation board meeting. We learned a lot about Mr. Gibb, and I also want, as a committee announcement, I wanted to make the board aware that the Public Education Foundation this morning, the board approved to set aside money and also to raise money specifically for a John Gibb Memorial Fund scholarship that they, depending on the amount of money raised, that they want to open that up to whomever wants to contribute. But they intend to give scholarships to Lake Weir High School students in his memory. And I'm sure we'll receive more information about that. It was just approved this morning, but as Ms. Magamol gets that information, I'm sure we'll all receive it. But his funeral services were purposeful and meaningful, just as he lived his life, and just as we watched his speech again this morning in the Public Education Foundation board meeting. And I couldn't stop hearing and thinking of the words, "Be kind." And frankly, because that's how he lived, and because that's all we heard on Saturday, was be kind to one another, be kind to one another. Kind of wish some people in the room this evening had heard that in advance of talking. Again, I'm going to continue to consider those words. This weekend was a turning point for me in a lot of ways, but also loving my neighbor as myself. And sometimes my neighbor doesn't agree with me. Sometimes my neighbor doesn't look like me. It is what it is. We're not called to judge them. We're called to love them. So with that, those are my comments. But board, we did leave the work session with the option for us to look at our calendars for June 12th through the 23rd. With it being almost 4 hours into our meeting at this point, perhaps we'll put that one off again, unless you all want to pull out your calendars right now. Okay, so our master board training options I will save for our next meeting, which will be in April, on April 6th. So please come prepared on April 6th with your, actually even on April 5th, but on April 6th for sure will be the public announcement where we can coordinate calendars for our master board training, the final one we will need in June. With that, that concludes my comments. So before addressing expulsion matters, I wish to acknowledge that the board members have received the alternative placement lists for students through February 22nd, 2023. Ms. Martinez-Lopez, are there parents who've submitted a timely request to speak on their child's disciplinary matter?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 5 speakers.
Thank you. So all of those conversations will be happening off air immediately following a recess that we will have in just a moment. But before that, may I have a motion to approve the expulsion of student JD 23-0147, JD 23-0148, JD 23-0149, JD 23-0152E, JD 23-0154, JD 23-0155, and JD 23-0156 with educational services through the remainder of the 2022-2023 school year and the entire 2023-2024 school year. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. James. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Conrad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. At this time, the board will go into a brief recess for us to prepare for our off-air part of the board meeting. It is 8:54 p.m. Thank you.